Part 14. Finn Taylor snatched the third shot glass from Jerry Wood's hands and raised it as he turned toward everyone else and offered a toast. That annoyed Jerry Wood, but at the same time, he couldn't help but respect the other. The latter had won everyone's hearts the moment he raised that glass. As long as they raised their glasses and drank with him, they would be declaring their allegiance to Finn Taylor. However, one could choose not to raise their glass, but that would definitely mean offending Finn Taylor. Besides, he had snatched that glass from Jerry Wood. Not raising one's glass would mean offending Jerry Wood too. Jerry Wood couldn't help but look at Finn Taylor in awe, but at the same time, he felt annoyed. Before Finn Taylor offered a toast, everyone had felt a tinge of pity for Jerry Wood simply because he had downed 2 shots. Yet, once Finn Taylor downed a shot, everyone would definitely forget about Jerry Wood downing the shots too. A goldfish has a memory span of 7 seconds. What makes humans different? Dogs might remember you for 3 years even if you only feed it for 3 days, yet humans might not even remember you for 3 days even if you feed them for 3 years. In that sense, humans can't even compare to dogs. Just as Jerry Wood expected, all those respected figures in the audience started raising their glasses one after another, toasting to Finn Taylor and pledging allegiance to him. Jerry Wood observed that Finn Taylor hadn't touched a single drop of alcohol even after grabbing the glass from him, yet none of that mattered. What mattered was that Finn Taylor had won everyone over. After everyone downed a shot, Finn Taylor announced, "Let me introduce someone to all of you. This is my younger sister Lindsay Taylor. She'll be an employee of the Jensen Corporation from now on. Please do guide my sister along." Although Finn Taylor hadn't said much, there were 3 main points in his short speech. Firstly, he'd be the top man in San Diego from now on. Secondly, his younger sister Lindsay Taylor would be the second in command. Lastly, Arthur Jensen came in third. No matter how they ranked them, these 3 people couldn't be trifled with. "Don't worry, Mr. Taylor. I'll treat Ms. Taylor as my elder sister. I'll treat her as my great aunt. I'll treat her as my grandma." Lindsay Taylor felt uncomfortable listening to these declarations. "I've barely turned 20, yet these people dare to address me as their grandma." As soon as the party ended, Finn Taylor pulled Lindsay Taylor aside for a chat. "I'm leaving this afternoon." "Leaving?" Lindsay Taylor pursed her lips and paused. "That's right, I've settled what I have to do here, so it's time to return to my wife." "Brother Finn, do you love your wife very much?" Lindsay Taylor herself had no idea why she posed such a question. "I know it's not right, but I can't help but hold out some hope. I love her very much, and I'll love her until the day I die. No woman will ever compare to her." Finn Taylor didn't usually voice out such cheesy thoughts, but he had to knock it into Lindsay Taylor. Young girls were overly sensitive at times. Finn Taylor had already felt her feelings from her actions and words. He had to put a stop to that. "All right, I understand." That afternoon, Finn Taylor left San Diego and headed for Chicago. Ginger kicked up a fuss, wanting to tag along too. However, Finn Taylor refused. The latter instead instructed him to head to San Francisco to look for Hunter Sullivan. Of course, Finn Taylor had told Hunter Sullivan all about the other, warning his subordinate to be wary of Ginger because he knew nothing about him. Hunter Sullivan was no fool and immediately understood what his boss meant. The purpose of visiting Chicago this time was to look for 2 people, Phoenix and Triton. Both were part of Peregrine Hall, and Finn Taylor was there to persuade the pair to make a trip to Mars. Although Finn Taylor still knew nothing about Mars, he needed to find people who would be willing to visit it. These 2 people were the perfect fit. After all, they had been raised by his grandpa. Just like him, they were loyal to his grandpa. Finn Taylor didn't talk to the 4 guardians about his grandpa, much less Ginger. However, Phoenix and Triton were different. Chicago. The moment Finn Taylor arrived, he spotted someone at the train station: Wendy Jensen, his mother. "Shouldn't you be at home?" After that incident at number 1 Pacific Heights, Finn Taylor had requested that his mother remain at home at all times. It was clear that she was going against him since she was here now. "Do you really think that you're still Master Peregrine of Peregrine Hall? Make a trip home. The Taylor family belongs to Benjamin Taylor now." Finn Taylor understood what she was getting at. She was here waiting for him to return to the Taylor family's residence to help her get rid of Benjamin Taylor and his sons. "Finn Taylor, you're obliged to do this. You're part of the Taylor family too, and your grandpa passed this family down to you. Can you really bear to let it end up in the hands of an outsider?" Finn Taylor chuckled. "You have no right to mention grandpa." Finn Taylor couldn't help but laugh at how his mother had no choice but to threaten him with his grandpa. She knew full well that there was nobody he cared about in the Taylor family save for his grandpa. Why did you come back this time? Wendy Jensen suddenly cut in with a question. Well, I should be curious as to how you knew I'd be here. Someone must have told you about this. Who was it? Who could it be? There are only a couple of people who knew of my destination as I left San Diego: Lindsay Taylor, Arthur Jensen, Minnie Jensen, Jerry Wood, and Ginger. As for those in San Francisco, I only made calls to 2 people: Hunter Sullivan and Yvette. The gears in Finn Taylor's mind started turning. Eventually, he had his answer. Jerry Wood: it seems like he's given me his answer. He's not loyal to me, but you. Finn Taylor was Master Peregrine of Peregrine Hall. Many felt that Finn Taylor represented Peregrine Hall, but only Finn Taylor knew the truth. Peregrine Hall belonged to Wendy Jensen and the Taylor family. It was for this exact reason that Finn Taylor was trying to win over everyone in Peregrine Hall. Jerry Wood can go to hell. Are you really going to kill him? What did he do? Finn Taylor had no intention of reasoning it out with his mother, since there was no point in doing so. He'd tried doing so too many times since his childhood. Why could Donovan Taylor have ice cream when he couldn't? Why did the birthday cake have only Donovan Taylor's name on it when they were twins? Again and again, the only answer he got was, "Shut up." He was no stranger to feeling unjust and aggrieved. From then on, Finn Taylor knew that whoever had the most support won. You're going to go against Jerry Wood? Wendy Jensen frowned in disapproval. Shouldn't I? Since I'm Master Peregrine, he should be loyal to me and me alone. To be honest, Finn Taylor had already wanted to deal with Jerry Wood. It was simply a pity that he couldn't find a good reason to do so. Jerry Wood thought that he could make use of Finn Taylor to defeat Philip Smith. Although Finn Taylor didn't seem petty, he was one to hold grudges. You, Wendy Jensen fumed and questioned her son, am I not your mother? Is there a problem with him being loyal to me? You may be my mother, but I've never experienced motherly love. That concluded Finn Taylor's conversation with his mother. As Wendy Jensen watched her son walking away, she understood full well that he would never return again. She had tried to control Finn Taylor by using Brian Taylor's name. Obviously, she had failed. Perhaps Finn Taylor still cared for the Taylor family, but it was Brian Taylor's Taylor family he cared about, not the current Taylor family. He would establish a new Taylor family, one of his own. The suburbs of Chicago, in a place named Long Grove. It was a rural area that hardly saw any visitors. Finn Taylor entered the dense forest, and thick foliage surrounded him. Deep within the forest were 2 straw huts. In them lived 2 people, Felix Taylor and Patrick Taylor. Brian Taylor had raised both of them, and they were also known as Phoenix and Triton of Peregrine Hall. Today, Finn Taylor had entered the forest to look for them. Before Finn Taylor could get close to the huts, he heard rustling noises. Shortly after, a few arrows shot toward him. However, he was easily able to dodge them. This was a piece of cake for Finn Taylor, but he was clear that this was only the beginning. Just as he expected, hundreds of arrows flew toward him. He no longer wanted to avoid them. There was no point in doing so. If he wanted to make them surrender, he would have to show off his true skills. Finn Taylor fought back. What followed was so extraordinary that one probably wouldn't believe it unless they were to witness it personally. With phenomenal speed, Finn Taylor caught the arrows in his hands one after another. Although the arrows were flying at an incredible speed, they were no match for Finn Taylor's skills. Within 10 minutes, he had managed to grab hold of the few hundred arrows. He flung them to the side and shouted, "There's no need to keep up with such childish games." Right after he said those words, he no longer faced any opposition. It seemed as though those inside also realized that such playthings were useless against him. Finally, Finn Taylor made his way to the straw hut. At the same time, 2 people walked out of the hut. You're unfit to be his grandson. It was Felix Taylor or Phoenix of Peregrine Hall who spoke up. Both of the Taylor family's grandsons are useless. Now, it was Patrick Taylor who spoke. Similar to the other, he didn't think highly of Finn Taylor. Is that so? Why don't we have a match? That'll prove if I'm really a piece of trash. Finn Taylor knew these 2 men in front of him like the back of his hand. There's no point trying to reason it out with them. I have to prove my worth by showing my power. Only then will they finally surrender to me. With that, Finn Taylor struck. Of course, his opponents didn't hold back either. They looked down on Finn Taylor, feeling that the latter had let Brian Taylor down. We have to defeat Finn Taylor. Just like that, the 3 men entered a head-to-head battle. Just then, the duo spotted a sinister smirk on Finn Taylor's lips. What are you laughing at? Felix Taylor couldn't help but feel that something was amiss. Very quickly, Finn Taylor made the other understand why he was laughing. All of a sudden, Finn Taylor's speed increased by over 10 times. Felix Taylor and Patrick Taylor were quashed by the lone man. Even though it was an unequal fight, the duo was no match for their opponent. Soon enough, they could no longer hold their own. We lost. We made a wrong call this time. Tell us, why are you here? While the pair was slightly indignant, they admitted defeat nonetheless. I want you to save someone. Neither Felix Taylor nor Patrick Taylor seemed the slightest bit interested upon hearing that. To save Brian Taylor. The moment Finn Taylor mentioned that name, two pairs of eyes were glued to him. What did you say? Remember that I'd have beaten you up a long time ago if not for the fact that you're his grandson. Finn Taylor pursed his lips and replied, didn't you try to beat me up? Patrick Taylor was at a loss for words. What can I do? He's right, I can't beat him. Timothy Taylor, what do you mean? Call me Finn Taylor. Timothy Taylor. It's been a long time since I've heard that name. It feels strange. To put it simply, Grandpa might still be alive. I need someone to look for him. Grandpa is still alive. At that, both Felix Taylor and Patrick Taylor grew excited. Is he really still alive? I can't be sure, but nobody has ever seen Grandpa's body. Who can be sure that he's really dead? But why hasn't Grandpa gotten in touch with us if he's still alive? Felix Taylor posed a critical question. That's right. Besides, given Grandpa's powers, someone must have noticed him no matter where he is. There's no way it would have remained hidden from Peregrine Hall. There's a place where that could happen, Finn Taylor said blandly. Where? Mars. Felix Taylor pointed to the sky. Mars. As he said so, his expression was one of mockery. You're mistaken. Have you heard of a place that only imprisons people with special powers? Once they're captured and imprisoned, they'll spend the rest of their lives there. That's Mars. Felix Taylor and Patrick Taylor shared a glance. Evidently, neither of them had ever heard of that place. However, they didn't doubt Finn Taylor. There were too many bizarre and exotic things in this world that they'd never heard of. Will you leave the mountains to help me look for Grandpa? The duo rolled their eyes. Finn Taylor made it seem as though Brian Taylor was his life, but wasn't that the case for them too? Without Brian Taylor, they'd have died a long time ago. After Grandpa's disappearance, they left Peregrine Hall to go into hiding in this thick forest. Otherwise, given their skills and abilities, they could have risen to a much higher position in Peregrine Hall. But now, few even knew about their existence. Hearing that, Finn Taylor finally felt reassured. After settling the matter with Phoenix and Triton, Finn Taylor returned to San Francisco. Because his wife had already known that he was returning, she had prepared a whole feast for him. Although Yvette Larson's culinary skills weren't superb, they weren't bad either. Recently, she'd been working hard to improve her skills, and her meals were edible at the very least. Of course, Yvette Larson had personally cooked the entire meal. To Finn Taylor, nothing came close to this meal. Does it taste good? It's delicious. Finn Taylor smiled. Just then, he received a call. It was from Ginger. On the other end of the call, Ginger was crying for Finn Taylor to save him from a beating. The latter simply ended the call. I've only returned today, but Ginger is already causing trouble for me. He must be doing this on purpose. What's wrong? Yvette Larson glanced at her husband, feeling that something was wrong. Nothing much, just a lunatic kicking up a fuss. Oh right, did someone turn up at our house saying that he was a close friend of mine before I came back? Hearing that, Yvette Larson quickly nodded. Yes, he said that his name was Ginger and that he's your close friend, so he wanted to visit me. I didn't recognize him, so I called Hunter Sullivan. Once he came, he beat Ginger up, and Ginger hasn't been back since. Finn Taylor nodded. He understood the situation now. You won't blame me for Hunter Sullivan ending the collaboration with you, will you? Of course not, but I won't refuse if you want to let Hunter Sullivan collaborate with me again. Oh, why? I want to build a business empire through my own efforts. I want to be worthy of you. Many outsiders felt that Yvette Larson was the princess of the Larson family while Finn Taylor was simply a useless matrilocal son-in-law. Everyone thought that Finn Taylor wasn't fit to be Yvette Larson's husband, but the latter knew full well just how big a difference lay between her and her husband. The reason she was working so hard was to catch up to her husband. Her meeting with Chloe Yates only strengthened her resolve. She wasn't the slightest bit afraid that Finn Taylor would have a change of heart. She was simply worried that those around him would mock him because she couldn't even match up to those other women. Work hard. Finn Taylor took his time to finish the whole table's worth of dishes that his wife had cooked up. Then, he stood up in no hurry at all. I'm going to check on that lunatic. Lunatic? Who is Finn talking about? San Francisco, in an internet cafe. Finn Taylor strolled in and headed straight for a room on the second floor. Once he kicked the door open, he spotted Ginger. The latter's green head of hair was too striking. "Bro, you're finally here. If you got here any later, you'd have had to collect my corpse instead." Ginger wailed as he hugged Finn Taylor's leg. "Is that so? Sigh, I should have arrived a little later then." Finn Taylor's words left Ginger and the rest of the men in the room at a loss for words. "What are you guys trying to do here? Come on, tell us how much you're going to pay us to let him go." Finn Taylor shot a glance at Ginger and asked, "How much do you guys want?" The other man stretched out 3 fingers. 30,000. Can I ask what mistake he made? We're a legitimate and legal internet cafe, but he came here to watch those kind of films. I can forget about that, but he ordered a drink and grabbed the waitress's ass when he walked over to deliver his order. Finn Taylor landed a vicious kick on Ginger. "Fuck, you're a fucking disgrace. How about this? Which hand did he molest her with? You guys can chop it off, but you'll have to give me a discount of 10,000. How's that?" The boss of the internet cafe was dumbfounded. Did this fool make a mistake? Did he really call his boss? Why does it seem as though his boss is out to kill him? No way. This 30,000 is to compensate this young lady for the mental trauma she faced, so we won't accept anything less. Right, you're right, but I don't have that much money. What shall we do? The boss could no longer hold it in. Fuck, are you really his boss? Why don't you have 30,000? Well, I do have 30,000. However, he's not worth that much. The boss finally understood the situation. That fool isn't worth much in his boss's eyes. If not for the fact that this fool is under him, he probably wouldn't even have bothered to come. How much are you willing to give us then? The boss could only make a compromise. There was no point in trying to fight the other. Finn Taylor took out 2 $20 bills. $40. Do you think that's enough? If it's not enough, I'll leave him here. You can beat him up as much as you want as long as you get revenge for that young lady. Make sure you don't kill him though. The boss of the internet cafe could no longer hold back his anger. I've been utterly humiliated. Picking up a glass bottle, he charged toward Finn Taylor. Hold on, I don't have 30,000, but I can take out a loan. Can I make a call? The boss couldn't help but feel that he'd met 2 absurd characters today. It was strange enough that the fool had been bold enough to do everything he had done here, but his boss was an even stranger character. Forget it, he waved his hand in agreement. To his surprise, Finn Taylor actually picked up his phone and made a call. Hello, I'm Ed. Can you lend me 30,000? Don't be so petty, it's just 30,000. Yes, 30,000. All right, thank you so much. Please bring it over right away. Hearing Finn Taylor's words, the boss nearly burst out into laughter. Are you really a boss? How did you even get any followers? Well, it's quite complicated. I'm a chauffeur. A woman tried to hook me up, and this fool got into my car and insisted on calling me his boss when I asked her to scram. The boss was stupefied. So that's what it is. These 2 are really absurd. Just then, someone rushed up the stairs. Boss, Andre Cavill is here. Andre Cavill. Fuck, the boss's face was filled with bewilderment. What's going on today? Why is Andre Cavill here? He's such a renowned figure in San Francisco. The boss rushed downstairs, only to see Andre Cavill standing at the door with a stack of cash. Boss, why are you here? Oh, my boss asked me to deliver 30,000 here for his lackey. 30,000? Why does that sound so familiar? Could it be? Seeing the other's expression, Andre Cavill had a sense of the situation. Don't tell me that you provoked my boss. Fuck, the boss of the internet cafe was on the brink of tears. I've been played. Right then, the boss of the internet cafe realized that he'd been tricked. However, he couldn't afford to blame the person who had played him. After all, Andre Cavill had already said that that man was his boss. He'd simply be seeking death if he were to put the blame on the other. With the boss leading the way, Andre Cavill quickly arrived upstairs. He spotted Finn Taylor at once. Mr. Taylor, the 30,000 you wanted. Give it to him. Finn Taylor pointed at the boss, who dared not receive the money. Earlier on, he'd been in the dark about Finn Taylor's true identity. But now that he knew it, he was in a fluster. Bro, I was wrong. Please forgive me for what I did. Finn Taylor smiled. It seemed like a gentle and welcoming smile, but it evoked true fear. Take it. The boss dared not go against the other. I told you to take it, so you'd better take it. The boss wondered what Finn Taylor was up to, yet it seemed like he was asking for a beating if he didn't take the money. As such, the boss eventually stepped forward to receive the stack of cash. However, He made a mental note to return this sum of money to Andre Cavill. Otherwise, he'd definitely suffer for this. Since you've taken my money, do something for me. The boss was so frightened that he fell to the ground on his knees. He'd seen many bosses saying such words, and what they wanted was for their men to kill themselves. By now, the boss of the internet bar was frantic. Why are you so scared? All I want you to do is beat him up and teach him a lesson. Be as brutal as you can be as long as you spare his life. The boss of the internet cafe was dumbfounded. Finn Taylor was pointing at Ginger, not him. What's going on? Isn't he here to save Ginger? Why is he asking me to beat him up? Are all bosses this unpredictable? The internet cafe boss was utterly confused. Did you hear what Mr. Taylor said? Can you get that done? Andre Cavill spoke up to confirm Finn Taylor's intentions. What? Even Andre Cavill is like that too. Don't tell me that Mr. Taylor isn't joking with me but being serious. No, Mr. Taylor, are you not just joking with me? Finn Taylor didn't reply to the boss and turned to Ginger instead. I remember telling you not to touch my wife before coming back, but you refused to listen to me and even went to number 1 Pacific Heights. On account that this is your first offense, I'm not going to kill you. The boss of the internet cafe could feel Finn Taylor exuding a murderous aura. He now understood that Mr. Taylor hadn't been joking at all. The moment Finn Taylor left, a blood-curdling scream could be heard from within the internet cafe. If Finn Taylor had intended to kill Ginger, whose background was unknown, he would have done so a long time ago. However, he felt that he would be able to learn of the much more sinister secrets the other was hiding if he were to keep him alive. Nonetheless, Finn Taylor wasn't going to simply tolerate his nonsense. On the way home, Finn Taylor made a stop at Hunter Sullivan's house to get an update about what had happened in San Francisco while he had been away. Then, he assigned the other with a task to head to San Diego and kill Jerry Wood. In Chicago, Finn Taylor had already told Wendy Jensen that he would kill Jerry Wood. Since he had already said so, he'd keep to his words. When Finn Taylor arrived home, he noticed that his wife had set up a chessboard. Wow, have you gotten into chess too? Not really, but I was the vice chairman of the chess club in college. Finn Taylor knew that there was a reason why his wife had suddenly brought a chessboard out. Go on, why did you set this chessboard up? It's simple. Willow Stone is back. Willow Stone. That's right, she was our classmate back in college and a close friend of mine back in the dormitory. She was also the president of the chess club. Finn Taylor waved her off, and he was confused. What does Willow Stone coming back got to do with Yvette taking out the chessboard? It's because she likes playing chess. Since she's back, I'll invite her over. She'll definitely give me an earful for not having a chessboard out at home. One of the most classic quotes from her is that chess is more important than food. After hearing Yvette Larson's words, her husband's curiosity toward Willow Stone was piqued. Oh right, didn't you say that you attended a chess competition when you went to Chicago last time? I think she participated in that competition too. The World Youth Chess Championship. At that, Finn Taylor's gaze revealed his surprise. I thought that she was just fooling around. I didn't think that she'd be such a serious player. Once she comes, I'll get her to give you some advice. That way, you won't lose too badly when you participate in that competition. Finn Taylor didn't know how to respond. Is she looking down on me? But I'm very good at chess. Do you still remember that young lady who visited us the last time? Yes, Yvette Larson naturally remembered that young lady. At that time, she had misunderstood her husband and had even thought that the young lady was Finn Taylor's mistress. Her name is Megan Daimler. She's Jessica Daimler's disciple. I beat her. You beat Jessica Daimler's disciple? Yes, I even beat Jessica Daimler. Yvette Larson sneered. Don't joke around. Why don't we make a bet? I'll kiss you if you can win a game against Willow Stone. Over the duration of 4 years, Willow Stone had made a deep impression on Yvette Larson that she was unbeatable in the chess world. In fact, the latter even thought that the only one who topped Willow Stone was Jessica Daimler. That's a deal. Don't go back on your word. All of a sudden, Finn Taylor couldn't help but look forward to his game against Willow Stone. Oh right, when is your friend coming over? Humph, remember not to try to eavesdrop on our conversation. Otherwise, I'll get jealous. Yvette Larson warned her husband, who shrugged indifferently. She was the one who had brought up her friend in the first place. I wouldn't have known about her otherwise, yet it seems like I'm the one who invited her friend here. However, Finn Taylor would never refuse his wife's requests. As such, he didn't ask any more. Just then, Kimberly Gold made a call to Finn Taylor, saying that her grandpa Third Master Gold had something important to tell him. Although Finn Taylor didn't know if this was simply an excuse Kimberly Gold was using, he knew that it was time to make the latter understand that a relationship was simply impossible between the two of them. Finn Taylor was no fool, and he had obviously felt Kimberly Gold's attitude toward him. Since he had no interest in her, there was no point in leading her on any longer. Very quickly, Finn Taylor arrived at the Gold family's residence. Upon pushing upon the gate, he spotted Kimberly Gold shaking her leg while sitting leisurely on a chaise. "Where's your grandpa?" Kimberly Gold harumphed. "Humph, you're not even asking about me. The first person you asked for after arriving is Grandpa." Finn Taylor simply pretended not to have seen Kimberly Gold huffing. "Third Master Gold, where are you?" Seeing that Finn Taylor was simply ignoring her, Kimberly Gold tried to say coquettishly, "Finn, where have you been? I haven't seen you in a long time." Kimberly Gold continued speaking behind Finn Taylor, who acted as though she was invisible. This made Kimberly Gold very displeased, and she finally couldn't hold it in anymore. "Finn Taylor, why are you ignoring me?" Just then, Third Master Gold arrived. "Finn Taylor is here." In reality, Third Master Gold had arrived a long time ago. He had simply remained hidden to see if a relationship between Kimberly Gold and Finn Taylor was even possible. However, he had gotten his answer the moment Kimberly Gold posed her question. He was left with no choice but to emerge from his hiding place. He knew that his granddaughter would definitely be hurt if Finn Taylor were to reply to her. That would be brutal. The Gold family was well known, but it was nothing when compared to Peregrine Hall, much less Master Peregrine of Peregrine Hall. Finn Taylor's one word would be enough to cause his granddaughter to break down. He naturally didn't want to witness that. Although he managed to prevent it, he already understood in his heart that he would have to guide his granddaughter well. It was impossible between her and Finn Taylor. However, Kimberly Gold knew nothing about her grandpa's good intentions. In fact, she was still blaming him in her heart. Why did he have to turn up now? I'd have had the chance to spend more time with Finn Taylor alone otherwise, and we might have even gotten together. "Finn Taylor, take a look at this." Finn Taylor picked up the item Third Master Gold handed over and analyzed it. "How interesting. Are these people trying to threaten me?" Finn Taylor was holding a document in his hand that many of the San Francisco Chess Association's elders had signed. They wanted him to win the World Youth Chess Championship. Otherwise, they would topple the Larson Corporation. Finn Taylor scanned through the names on the document, taking them all to heart. It didn't mean much for Finn Taylor to participate in the tournament. After all, he had already agreed to it from the beginning. What he disliked was others trying to threaten him in this manner, especially when it involved his wife. Yvette Larson was Finn Taylor's weak spot. It only went to show how stupid these people were by using her as a threat against him. "Finn Taylor, Carl Gillies's and my name aren't on it." The moment Third Master Gold said those words, Finn Taylor finally understood why the former had called him over. This document had been sent in the name of the San Francisco Chess Association. It was only natural for him to blame Carl Gillies for it, yet Third Master Gold had protected him with his words. As for his own name, he had only slipped it in casually. Given his relationship with Finn Taylor, the latter would probably realize straight away that he hadn't signed it anyway. "All right, I understand," Finn Taylor replied positively. "Carl Gillies will be spared this time. I have something to attend to at home. I'm leaving." Picking up the document, Finn Taylor headed out. Kimberly Gold was about to speak up when her grandpa held her back. When Finn Taylor was finally out of sight, Kimberly Gold flared up. "Grandpa, it's so rare for him to visit us. How could you let him leave just like that?" "Kimberly, he's a married man." This time, Third Master Gold didn't give in to his granddaughter. Instead, he genuinely tried to counsel her. Yet, its effectiveness seemed minimal. Kimberly Gold gave a cold harumph before stomping off. Third Master Gold felt helpless, but he wasn't going to waver on this matter. Just then, someone appeared by his side. Did he really escape from that place? Third Master Gold was no stranger to the man who had suddenly appeared. It was Carl Gillies. He had invited the latter over. They had deliberately told Finn Taylor about that document to ensure Carl Gillies' safety, as well as observe his attitude toward it. "I've offended quite a lot of big shots here in San Francisco because of this." Carl Gillies sighed. Beside him, Third Master Gold smiled. "That's better than losing your life, don't you think? Those people are so useless, but they still want to go against him. But he looks so gentle and peace-loving. Will he really kill someone? Not if they'd only asked him to participate in the competition." Unfortunately, those fools insisted on adding his wife's name there. Now, nobody can save them. Hearing that, Carl Gillies suddenly laughed. "In that case, Your granddaughter is done for. Third Master Gold huffed and glared at his friend. Don't laugh. You should worry about yourself. Why? Carl Gillies seemed relaxed as though he had not a single care in the world. Megan Daimler is here in San Francisco. I know. She's here to personally invite Finn Taylor over as a sign of respect. A sign of respect? I think you're overthinking it. The last time Finn Taylor won against Megan Daimler, I could tell that she had feelings for him. I'm sure that's why she's made the trip here this time. So what? She's not my granddaughter. Carl Gillies was indifferent. But you're the boss of the San Francisco Chess Association. How do you think Jessica Daimler will treat you if her disciple gets her heart broken here? Fuck. Carl Gillies was stunned. I have to take the blame for this too. When Finn Taylor arrived home, he noticed two guests at home, one of whom was Clarine Landon. She broke out into a smile the moment she saw Finn Taylor. You're finally back. I heard that you made a bet with someone. As she said so, she constantly glanced at the third lady, one wearing a black leather jacket and a baseball cap and was about 1.7 meters tall. Let me introduce her. She's my best friend Willow Stone. Finn Taylor nodded at Willow Stone. I'm sorry, I've been living overseas, so I wasn't able to attend your wedding. Finn Taylor's eyes remained on Willow Stone. He couldn't shake off the feeling that this woman was hiding something. It's impolite to keep staring at a woman. Willow Stone suddenly spoke up. Ms. Stone, what does your family do? Oh, my parents are businessmen in America. If you're interested, you can bring Yvette over for a trip. We'll host you well. Her words then took a sudden turn. Along the way here, I've heard many things about you, Mr. Taylor. It seems like you don't have a very good reputation. The chessboard is a balance of white and black squares, and so is life. Life is just like a game of chess. Finn Taylor said only 2 sentences, but that threw Willow Stone into deep thought. Is the black that I see really black? What's the white that you see? Yvette, where's the chessboard? Hearing that, Clarine Landon got excited. She knew that Willow Stone was finally going to show off her chess skills for the first time in a long while. She was naturally going to bring Finn Taylor down this time. In the chess room, Yvette Larson walked into the chess room with the rest following behind her. Since Ms. Stone says that I have a bad reputation, I shall take the white pieces. Willow Stone didn't refuse and sat on the side with the black chess pieces. Finn Taylor started first, making a simple move. Willow Stone put up a fight, not allowing her opponent to take the lead. Then, the tiny chessboard became a fierce battleground. The chess pieces were no different from valiant soldiers that were fighting tooth and nail with no rest. Neither Yvette Larson nor Clarine Landon were exceptionally good at chess, but they did know a thing or two about it because of Willow Stone's influence. It was exactly because they understood the game that they felt shocked. In their hearts, Willow Stone was undefeated, yet she was being suppressed by Finn Taylor throughout the game and didn't even have the chance to fight back. Finn Taylor made his last move, bringing the game to an end. Willow Stone had lost, and she couldn't help but wonder if Finn Taylor had even let her off easy because of what he had said earlier. Yet, she hoped that she was wrong and that everything was simply a coincidence. The thought of it being otherwise was terrifying. Not only had he won, but that wasn't even his best. Willow Stone wasn't one who could admit defeat easily, but she stood up and stared at her opponent. You won. Before Finn Taylor could say anything, Clarine Landon spoke up. Humph, don't get so smug. You only won because you started the game. Finn Taylor was helpless. Yes, I got lucky this time. The more humble Finn Taylor behaved, the more afraid Willow Stone got of him. Along her way here, she'd heard a lot about the useless matrilocal son-in-law of the Larson family. But now, those rumors seemed like nothing but lies. Unknown to her, Finn Taylor was sizing her up too. There's much more to this girl than what meets the eye. Yvette Larson had made the other out to be an average and meek girl, but one's true personality would show when they were unaware. For example, Willow Stone's thirst for victory was nothing like the gentle and meek personality Yvette Larson described her to have. Of course, it could also be that Finn Taylor was overthinking it. Perhaps she simply wanted to win. Willow Stone didn't know how to feel when she heard her friend speaking up for her. Although she felt grateful toward the latter, she knew full well that it would be difficult for her to beat Finn Taylor even if she started first. Are you participating in the competition too? Yes. I look forward to playing against you then. The next day, Finn Taylor received a call from Logan Yates, saying that Hunter Sullivan had returned but was now in the hospital. What's going on? He was stunned. I asked Hunter Sullivan to finish Jerry Wood off. Logically speaking, Jerry Wood isn't strong enough to hurt him, so why is he in the hospital? I'd better not overanalyze it and just go to take a look at him first. Are you going out? Finn Taylor was just about to leave when Willow Stone walked down the stairs. She was dressed in a pink mini skirt that revealed her long and slender legs. Last night, Finn Taylor had been chased out of his room by the 3 girls, who had also taken over his bed. "Yes, I have something to do. Last night, Yvette said that you're always very busy. Don't tell me that you're hooking up with other women." Finn Taylor said only half-jokingly, "You seem to be very interested in me." "No, not really, I just don't want Yvette to be hurt. If you're really worried about her, you can use your own powers." Willow Stone evidently paused after hearing the other, but she quickly regained her senses and smiled. "Protect her using my chess skills." Finn Taylor merely smiled in return and waved at her. "I'm leaving." His earlier words had been meant to test Willow Stone. Based on her reaction, he couldn't help but suspect that her personality and character were nothing more than a front. "She didn't turn up at our wedding, not because she didn't want to come but because she couldn't. If that's the case, I really have to conduct a thorough investigation on this girl. Who knows what else she's hiding." Very quickly, Finn Taylor arrived at the hospital. The situation was much worse than he had expected. Both of Hunter Sullivan's hands were fractured. This was Wampus of Peregrine Hall they were talking about. Even with his skills, he couldn't protect the other. Who was it? The first person who came to mind was none other than his own mother, Wendy Jensen, because the other knew that he wanted to kill Jerry Wood. "I don't know. When I arrived at Jerry Wood's house, a man suddenly appeared and beat me up. I couldn't defend myself, and he broke both my hands." "Could you recognize him? Is he from Peregrine Hall? Did Wendy Jensen send him?" "No, he probably isn't from Peregrine Hall. I don't think Madam sent him either because he didn't even know me. He just said that my martial arts skills resemble those of someone he used to know and that he wanted to test me." Hunter Sullivan's words threw the others into confusion. Who's this mysterious person that showed up out of nowhere? Help me look into this person. Finn Taylor took out a photo and handed it to Alexander Scott. The latter glanced at the photo of Willow Stone. "Who's this?" "My wife's close friend." The 4 guardians were stupefied. In fact, their expressions seemed as though they were looking straight at a monster. They were just short of saying that he wouldn't even let his wife's best friend off. Was he still human? "Don't think too much about it. She's Yvette's college friend and a good friend of hers. She recently visited us, and I feel that she's a little mysterious." Hearing that, everyone's eyes shot toward the photo. Yet, not a single one of them could understand what Finn Taylor meant by that. "She looks like a very typical and beautiful young lady. If we were to talk about her unique points, it'd probably be her long and slender legs. However, there are tons of women with such long legs." "Do you mean they're all mysterious?" Finn Taylor is just making an excuse. Finn Taylor couldn't be bothered to explain himself, and he simply asked Hunter Sullivan an important question. "Do you have any way of finding that person? You can try the beach." Finn Taylor nodded as Hunter Sullivan described a location to him. Just as Finn Taylor was about to leave the hospital, he spotted Andre Cavill entering. With him was Gingerwo, had been beaten up to the brink of death on Finn Taylor's instruction. Of course, Finn Taylor wasn't going to kill him since he'd be of good use in the future. However, Ginger had evoked his wrath, and the latter had to teach him a lesson. Not sparing Ginger a glance, Finn Taylor turned on his heels and left, headed straight for the beach. Since Hunter Sullivan has already said that it's possible to bump into that person here, there is no harm in trying my luck. I'm about to leave for Chicago for the competition, yet a dangerous figure has shown up here in San Francisco all of a sudden. I can't let my guard down." Very quickly, Finn Taylor arrived at the beach. The waves were washing up on shore, and the weather was wonderful. Yet, Finn Taylor couldn't care less about this magnificent view. All his senses were focused on looking for that person alone. All of a sudden, a man strolled over. Although his steps seemed light, they were firm and grounded. He'd been trained. Perhaps an ordinary person wouldn't have spotted it, but Finn Taylor noticed it at once. Without saying a word, that man immediately threw a punch toward Finn Taylor. Of course, the latter didn't waste his breath either before fighting back right away. Bang! Their fists smashed against each other, a loud sound resonating as they both flew back and away from each other. Thud! That man swept his foot over, trying to land a kick on his opponent. Finn Taylor wasn't to be beaten and returned a kick. Bang! Their legs crashed against each other, a thunderous sound erupting. This battle lasted a good 5 hours with no end in sight. When Finn Taylor returned home, he felt sore all over. But he knew full well that his opponent would probably feel much worse than him and was probably much more severely injured. When he arrived home, he realized that his wife was still awake. It seemed like she had stayed up to wait for his return. "I'm back." Finn Taylor acted as though nothing had happened as he tried to conceal the excruciating pain. But the moment his wife touched him, he couldn't help but hiss. "What's wrong?" Yvette Larson realized that something was amiss the moment she posed that question. She quickly shut her mouth and decided not to pursue the matter. "You must be hungry. What do you want?" "Spaghetti." "All right, I'll go make some. Where are your friends?" "They all left." "Oh." Finn Taylor seemed indifferent. The spaghetti was ready before long, and Finn Taylor slurped it up. However, every bite made him shudder inwardly in pain. Yet, he tried his very best to endure it and act as though there was nothing wrong. "Oh right, what does Willow Stone's family do? Maybe you can collaborate with her." "Nope, she doesn't care about the family business. I think we'd better not ruin our friendship with the talk of money." Finn Taylor nodded, agreeing with his wife. In reality, however, he had been trying to get information about Willow Stone out of her. What Finn Taylor hadn't expected was for an opportunity to come his way so quickly. Yvette Larson handed him a plane ticket. "Willow bought this. She'll travel to Chicago with you for the competition." Finn Taylor glanced at the ticket, not saying anything as he continued eating his meal. However, his mind was in a mess. Given his observations, Willow Stone wasn't a simple woman. She definitely has something up her sleeve by asking me to go with her this time. What does she really want? Finn Taylor thought long and hard about it but couldn't think of anything. San Francisco, in a certain hut by the sea. Slap. Willow Stone slapped the man in front of her viciously. "Who asked you to interact with him?" The man Willow Stone had slapped was none other than the man who fought Finn Taylor that very afternoon. His name was Nigel Stone. "I didn't reveal my identity. I was just trying to test his skills." "Of course, I know that. If you revealed yourself, do you think you'd be alive and talking to me here?" "But I didn't do anything wrong." "No, what do you think you are? You're just a dog that our family keeps. Father asked you to come here to protect me. What you did was wrong." "But," scram, Nigel Stone remained silent even though he was inwardly fuming as he left the room. The next day, Finn Taylor arrived at the San Francisco Chess Association. There, the old men who had threatened him were all gathered. All their gazes were filled with disdain as they glanced at Finn Taylor. Even though they had personally witnessed Finn Taylor beating Jessica Daimler, that didn't change the fact that he was simply the useless matrilocal son-in-law of the Larson family. "Are you here to apologize?" An elder spoke up, disdain evident in his eyes. "Why should I apologize?" Finn Taylor scoffed as he looked at that man. "Does a piece of trash need a reason to apologize?" "Piece of trash, are you not? You're just a useless matrilocal son-in-law of the Larson family. Are you going to deny that?" "Oh, I heard some rumors about my wife's company working with your company recently." That elder waved his hand, cutting the other off. "We're not working together. Your wife was desperate for our help. Your family offended the Sullivan family and is on the verge of bankruptcy. Without our help, the Larson family will surely crumble. Actually, we didn't offend you. Besides, it'll benefit you as well if I rank well in this upcoming competition. It's obvious that you're just trying to control me." These men seemed intelligent on the surface, but their intentions wouldn't get past Finn Taylor's eyes. If he were to win the competition, he would definitely have power and a say in the American Chess Association. Then, these old men wouldn't even be able to compare themselves to him. That was why they had put him on the spot now, even dragging his wife into the equation. What they wanted was for Finn Taylor to be under their control. Then, they'd have a say in the American Chess Association once he won. Finn Taylor would be a fool if he couldn't even come to such a simple conclusion. Wait, the old men were in shock when they heard Finn Taylor's words. It was obvious that they hadn't expected Finn Taylor to think of that. "I never thought that you'd be able to guess what we're up to." Even though Finn Taylor had already said so, these men still refused to believe that Finn Taylor had any abilities at all. The word they had used was, guess. To them, it was pure luck that someone like Finn Taylor had managed to draw such a conclusion. It was simply impossible for him to have thought of something like that. But Finn Taylor didn't take that to heart. "Threaten me or Yvette Larson, and you can wait to collect some corpses after this competition." With that, Finn Taylor turned to leave. On a flight from San Francisco to Chicago, first class. Finn Taylor was seated next to Willow Stone. Neither of them said anything as they were both engrossed in their own books. Finn Taylor was reading a book titled Walled City, while the other was reading a book titled Storm. There was another pair seated in first class that was much noisier as compared to Finn Taylor and Willow Stone. That couple even treated this as a karaoke lounge and started singing right from the start of the flight. "Are you guys done?" At last, Willow Stone could no longer hold it in and exploded. She charged up to the other couple and splashed the glass of water next to her onto the man. Understandably, that man flew into a rage and threw a punch at Willow Stone. Finn Taylor hadn't intended on stepping in, but he knew that his wife would definitely hold him accountable if her friend were to get injured in his presence. Left with no other choice, he reached out and grabbed the other man's hand. That man's name was Sean Kleina, while that woman's name was Mia Henney. Sean Kleina was the young master of a second-tier family in Chicago, while Mia Henney was an air stewardess. Because of how often the former flew, he had gotten to know Mia Henney. One of them was a gold digger, while the other one was lustful. They made for a great pair. Men loved acting as though they were the most powerful person in the world in front of their women. But now, a woman had just splashed him with a glass of water. It would be humiliating for him to simply take that without retaliating, yet he had never expected Finn Taylor to step forward. The moment Finn Taylor grabbed his hand, he couldn't help but feel like he had lost all control over his hand. It felt as though a machine had taken over control of his hand. "Let go," Sean Kleina yelled, but that didn't have any effect. "If you don't let go, I'm going to call for the flight attendants. You're going to be arrested." Sean Kleina knew full well that he wasn't going to win against Finn Taylor, yet he didn't want to admit to that. That was why he tried to find an excuse for himself and shouted at his opponent. Finn Taylor chuckled. "Go ahead." As he said so, Finn Taylor throttled the other in the neck. It was hard for Sean Kleina to breathe, much less shout. "Go on. Why aren't you shouting?" Finn Taylor had a dead hold on Sean Kleina, whose face only got more flushed by the second. The latter felt as though he was about to suffocate to death. "If you agree to what I say, blink your eyes. Otherwise, don't blink." Finn Taylor continued in no hurry at all. "We need a quiet environment. Shut up and stop singing." Sean Kleina blinked furiously. "You tried to attack this lady earlier on. Apologize to her later." Sean Kleina blinked furiously yet again. "By an apology, I mean kneeling down to her." This time, Sean Kleina hesitated. Right then, Finn Taylor tightened his grip around the other's neck. Sean Kleina felt awful, and he had no choice but to blink furiously yet again. Finn Taylor finally loosened his grip. He wasn't the slightest bit afraid that the other would go back on his word. If this man stuck to his promise, Finn Taylor would let the other off because he wasn't one to bear grudges. But if the other man went back on his word, he would make sure that death was his only way out. Thankfully, Sean Kleina didn't disappoint Finn Taylor and kneeled down to express his sincere apology to Willow Stone. The latter couldn't help but feel awkward. When they returned to their seats, Willow Stone turned to Finn Taylor. "Is walled city interesting?" "Well, it's rather philosophical. Tell me about it." "People outside the walled city try their best to enter, while those inside try their best to escape." "So are you planning on getting a divorce from Yvette?" Finn Taylor had to resist the urge to slap her. "Look at what you're saying. I just saved you, but you're talking about me in this way." "What's storm about?" "Life is just like a storm. We go through trials and tribulations but end up with nothing." Finn Taylor smiled but didn't try to argue with Willow Stone about her interpretation of the book. Sean Kleina didn't dare to make a sound, but he glanced at Finn Taylor from time to time. To be honest, he now held a deep grudge against the other. It was only natural for young Master Kleina to act that way since he had been utterly humiliated after all, but he couldn't get his revenge here on this flight. If he were to make a fuss this time, it wouldn't only be Finn Taylor who would get in trouble. He would be implicated as well. However, Finn Taylor was dead meat once they arrived in Chicago. Finally, the plane landed in Chicago. As soon as they got off the plane, Finn Taylor led Willow Stone to a corner. "That's not the way out. Follow me." Finn Taylor naturally wouldn't leave from the official exit. His instincts told him that his mother would be waiting for him there. Finn Taylor and Willow Stone hadn't walked for long before someone walked up to them. She was a beauty who looked like an angel that had descended from heaven, and she immediately took the luggage from Finn Taylor. "Did you have a good flight?" "Not really. I haven't taken a plane in a long time." The lady who had come to pick Finn Taylor was none other than Queen Felicity. "Who's this?" Willow Stone pointed at Felicity Rouge warily. "Finn Taylor, I knew it. You're having an affair behind Yvette's back. Go ahead and tell Yvette about this. Are you threatening me? Do you think that I won't dare to do it?" As she said so, Willow Stone picked up her phone and snapped a few photos of Finn Taylor with Queen Felicity. "Yvette, a woman came to pick your husband up at the airport. I suspect that something is going on between the two of them." Yvette Larson replied very quickly. "Willow Stone, why are you and Clarine so suspicious of Finn?" Willow Stone nearly exploded because of her best friend's stupidity. I just caught her husband in the midst of an affair. I even sent her a photo, yet she still doesn't believe me. Yvette, I really saw your husband behaving strangely with that woman. Are you sure you don't want me to catch her for you? I know Finn very well. After her experience with Chloe Yates, Yvette Larson had already mentally prepared herself for Finn Taylor knowing all sorts of people around the world. Besides, she would trust in her husband no matter what. You're killing me. Willow Stone was enraged, but Yvette Larson was her best friend after all. Since I've caught them in the act, I won't just let this go. Stop right there. What's your name? Queen Felicity didn't reply to Willow Stone but instead turned to Finn Taylor. She was obviously asking for the latter's permission. Finn Taylor nodded. Felicity. What kind of stupid name is that? What's your relationship with Finn Taylor? You have no right to know. Willow Stone monitored Felicity's every movement carefully. She wanted to catch the latter red-handed, flirting with Finn Taylor. But the more she observed them, the more she couldn't help but feel that Felicity was more like a slave than a mistress. It seems like this man is different from what the rumors make him out to be. He has some ability after all. After settling Finn Taylor and Willow Stone down in the hotel, Felicity left. The duo was left in the hotel room alone. While showing off her long and slender legs, Willow Stone held a wine glass in her hand. You're very different from what Yvette described. Did she say I was a meek and quiet girl? That's right. Do you think all meek and quiet girls are fools who always submit to others? At least you aren't like that. People change. I just want you to get to know a different side of me. There's no need for that. You're just my wife's best friend. Why isn't she resting? What's she doing in my room? Besides, why is she drinking here? Yvette trusts me, and that's why she allowed me to come here with Willow Stone. I can't let her down. Is she really that important? Isn't she your best friend? Is she not important to you? All of a sudden, Willow Stone put the wine glass down and stood up. I'm leaving. She then strutted off. Finn Taylor listened closely for the footsteps. Willow Stone's room was right next to his. However, it was obvious from her footsteps that she had returned to her room. Then, she went out again. What's she going to do? This woman is so mysterious, and she's hiding too many secrets. Willow Stone headed out of the hotel and went toward the suburbs of Chicago. The suburbs of Chicago. A man and woman were kneeling down on the ground. They were none other than Sean Kleine and Mia Henney. The moment the couple got off the plane, they rushed home, contemplating how to take their revenge against Finn Taylor. However, they were struck unconscious the moment they left the airport. When they came to, they were already kneeling here. In Nigel Stone's hands was a sharp dagger. You're really daring to sing on board a flight, disturbing others in the process. When our young lady asked you to shut up, you even tried to hit her. Sean Kleine eyed that glistening dagger, feeling fear rise up in his heart. Bro, are you talking about that woman on the plane? Sean Kleine had now given up all thoughts of getting his revenge. He had to ensure his own safety first. How much do you want, bro? I can give you as much as you want as long as you don't kill me. Sean Kleine only dared to bully the weak but feared those stronger than him. As expected, he immediately gave in to someone like Nigel Stone. What the heck can money do? What I want is your apology. An apology to that bitch? Who is she to deserve an apology from us? But Mia Henney was different, was terribly jealous of Willow Stone's beauty. Moreover, she had shown herself to be extremely ignorant by entertaining herself through singing on the plane. On the other hand, Willow Stone had been reading throughout the entire flight. Although she knew that Willow Stone was probably more cultured and intelligent than her, she hated the other and thought that she was simply faking it. Mia Henney wanted to scold her and make her understand that she was the most beautiful. Bitch, how dare you scold my young lady? With that, Nigel Stone waved his dagger. All Sean Kleine felt was coldness at his neck. It was only then that he regained his senses. The one Nigel Stone just killed was me. Wasn't Mia Henney the one who scolded that young lady? Why did he kill me? Ah, Mia Henney had personally witnessed that sight, let out a blood-curdling scream just as Sean Kleine's blood spurted onto her. She felt fear from deep within her soul, and her eyes were filled with terror. But soon after that, she was killed too. They humiliated my young lady, so they have to die. Since Mia Henney scolded my young lady, she can't die an easy death. She has to experience the worst form of terror before dying. With that done, Nigel Stone tossed the dagger aside before leaving. Willow Stone met Nigel Stone outside Chicago. You killed them. The moment she spotted Nigel Stone, Willow Stone had already felt the murderous aura the former was emitting. Such an aura was difficult for a layperson to detect, but it existed, and Willow Stone had felt it. They deserved death for insulting you. What if he finds out about what you did? He's just a piece of trash. I tested him. What? It was obvious that Willow Stone knew nothing about the situation. What was the result of that? Neither of us won. He isn't dead. Dead? Willow Stone suddenly chuckled. Can you kill him? That question hit the bullseye. Indeed, from what Nigel Stone experienced that day, he knew he wouldn't be able to kill the other. He had said everything for nothing. But why did you choose him? He's clearly a piece of trash. You're such a fool. All you care about is what others think of him. Don't you know that people like him won't show their true selves in front of others, much less care about their opinions? I might be a fool. All I think about is you, but what about him? All he thinks about is Yvette Larson. How dare you? Forgive me, Miss Nigel Stone, you'd better know your place. You're just a stray dog our family took in. If you really want to be our family head, we'll have to see if you can solve our family's troubles first. Nigel Stone swung his fist across the air. Solve the family's troubles? If I were that capable, we wouldn't have needed to return from abroad. We're here to find someone who can do that job. Willow Stone had never expected to find that person so quickly. It was none other than her best friend's husband, Finn Taylor. When Willow Stone returned to the hotel, Finn Taylor happened to chance upon the news that Sean Kleine and Mia Henney had been killed. He had no idea why the couple had suddenly died. They offended Willow Stone and me. Since I haven't done anything, is Willow Stone the culprit? But that's impossible. If she really is the culprit, that's petrifying. That woman looks so weak and harmless, but I didn't expect her to be such a vicious and heartless killer. When Willow Stone returned, he simply informed her, those two people on the plane are dead. Huh, dead? Willow Stone expressed her shock. Finn Taylor stared straight into her eyes to catch a lie. Eventually, Finn Taylor brought up the question, were you the one who killed them? He didn't even flinch when posing it. Of course not. Willow Stone denied it vehemently. Her eyes were set and resolute. Finn Taylor stared straight at her and eventually chose to believe her. He was now sure that Willow Stone indeed wasn't the killer. But who could it be if not her? Were they really so unlucky to have bumped into an enemy? But since I can't think of an answer, I shouldn't think about it anymore. The competition is starting tomorrow, and we have to draw lots in the afternoon today. Finn Taylor glanced at Willow Stone. It looks like things are a mess outside. You'd better not go out. Why, are you scared that I'd ask you to go with me? Willow Stone said half-jokingly. I only shop with my wife, Finn Taylor answered seriously. Hearing that, Willow Stone was clearly stunned. Why would he suddenly bring Yvette Larson up? Is he trying to annoy me on purpose, or was it unintentional? That afternoon, Megan Daimler visited them at the hotel. She was there to pick Finn Taylor and Willow Stone up for the drawing of lots. Along the way there, Megan Daimler explained the competition rules to the duo. Each country had 2 competitors, with more than 60 countries participating in total. Each match was an elimination match, but the length of each game was undetermined. They would make a decision regarding that on the spot during the competition. Also, the ones making the decision wouldn't be the American Chess Association but the Japanese Chess Association. This was because the Japanese had won the previous championship. Megan Daimler then told Finn Taylor to watch out for a certain player, Kuro Takeda. He was a genius chess player from Japan and a disciple of Yoshi Masaki. When playing against opponents of the same skill level, he never took more than 100 moves to utterly crush them. Megan Daimler even told Finn Taylor that he could consider himself victorious if he were to force Kuro Takeda to make his 101st move, even if he eventually lost the game. Finn Taylor nearly vomited blood after hearing that. What does that even mean? Victorious even if I lose the game? Winning is winning, and losing is losing. There's no such thing as being victorious if you lose. Do you have the confidence to win the championship? Willow Stone grew a little frantic as she listened on by the side, so she couldn't help but question Finn Taylor. Full confidence. That stunned both Willow Stone and Megan Daimler speechless. Just earlier, Megan Daimler had gone on and on to knock it into Finn Taylor that Kuro Takeda was a strong contender the former had to be careful about. Yet, it seemed like he had taken nothing to heart and was going to go on his own merry ways. After arriving at the American Chess Association, Finn Taylor and Willow Stone drew their lots. Finn Taylor was number 8, while Willow Stone was number 13. It was a good thing that they had gotten into separate groups. Look over there. Megan Daimler pointed in a direction, and the other 2 quickly followed. In that direction were 2 men, one young and one old. The elder was dressed in a long, white robe, his hair silvery. The man on the other hand was dressed in all black, his eyes filled with viciousness. They're Kuro Takeda and Yoshi Masaki. Finn Taylor studied the two men carefully. I guess my greatest opponent will be Kuro Takeda. I promised Yvette I'd bring home the championship. I can't go back on my word. To be honest, Finn Taylor didn't have much interest in defeating Kuro Takeda. The one he wanted to defeat was Yoshi Masakai, top in the world. Even Jessica Daimler couldn't hold a candle to him. Since this competition was organized by the American Chess Association and both accommodation and food were provided, the competitors didn't need to leave the venue and could simply stay here. Master said that I should follow you back after this competition. She thinks that you have very interesting and unique chess skills that even she doesn't understand. She wants me to learn from you, Megan Daimler said, a little abashed. Although Finn Taylor didn't say anything, Willow Stone's gaze changed. I don't think that's appropriate. Don't you think you'll affect his relationship with his wife? No, I'm going to learn chess. What does that have to do with his marriage? Willow Stone didn't want Megan Daimler to butt in. She was sure that Finn Taylor was an outstanding man, so much so that she was willing to betray her best friend to have him for herself. She didn't want to have to go against so many women for a single man. Besides, these other women were all brilliant in their own right. In San Francisco were Yvette Larson, Clarine Landon, and Kimberly Gold. From San Diego was Lindsay Taylor. Los Angeles, Chloe Yates. Chicago, Felicity. Do I have to compete with even Megan Daimler now? These women were all well-known figures in their own industries, yet they all submitted to Finn Taylor. Everyone else thought that Finn Taylor was nothing more than a piece of trash and the matrilocal son-in-law of the Larson family. Who would have expected him to be this outstanding? Nothing came out of Willow Stone and Megan Daimler's fight because Finn Taylor refused to step in. After all, neither of them was the woman he cared about most. The next day, the competition proceeded as planned. Both Finn Taylor and Willow Stone very easily defeated their opponents. But when the results for the lot drawing came out that afternoon, Willow Stone nearly burst into tears. She was about to face Kuro Takeda. It seems like I'm going to test the waters for you. I'll try my best to force him to reveal his strategy. You'd better observe closely. A chess player had many paths to choose from, yet they would most likely favor one subconsciously when driven into a corner. It was dangerous for chess players to reveal such a strategy to their opponents. It was only natural for their opponents to set up traps for them in that case. Finn Taylor remained indifferent and merely thanked Willow Stone. The next day, the competition went on. Finn Taylor defeated his opponent with no challenge at all. Just like Willow Stone had said, she went all out to try to force Kuro Takeda into showing his hand. But reality was cruel. She still had no idea about Kuro Takeda's strategy. When faced with the same scenario, Kuro Takeda had used 3 different methods to draw himself out in the same match. Willow Stone was crushed and eventually lost the match. Of course, Finn Taylor had been observing the entire match. After the match ended, Kuro Takeda took the initiative to approach him. You must be the other competitor from America. Tomorrow, I'll make you kneel at my feet. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. Finn Taylor hated people who were this smug. I'll defeat you, Finn Taylor roared back. Kuro Takeda obviously didn't believe a word the other said and simply left. Finn Taylor was fixated on the word, tomorrow. Why did he say that? Can he control the drawing of lots? What if we don't have a face-off tomorrow? Wouldn't he have said that in vain then, or is there something more to this? That night, Jessica Daimler invited both Finn Taylor and Willow Stone to dinner. Finn Taylor, I saw Kuro Takeda approach you after the match today. Jessica Daimler suddenly brought up what she had seen that afternoon. Oh right, I wanted to ask you about that too. He told me that he'd defeat me tomorrow. What does that mean? Do you mean that he can control the matches? Jessica Daimler's gaze was filled with worry when she heard that. It seems like they're going to go all out. What do you mean? Tell me about it. In recent years, the Japanese chess team has been suppressing the American team. However, we're still the governing team of the International Chess Association. They've always been unhappy about that, but it looks like they're finally going to do something about it this time. Finn Taylor, the Japanese team is definitely going to have some tricks up their sleeves tomorrow. You'd better watch out. There had been some grudges between Finn Taylor and Jessica Daimler in the past, but they were still representing the same team. Now that it concerned another country, the two were on the same line. Please rest assured, Ms. Daimler. I'll do my best. The next day, the competition resumed. Finn Taylor went against a competitor from Thailand. Before long, he managed to defeat the other. What surprised Finn Taylor was that his next opponent came forward the moment the previous match ended. What's going on? Why doesn't Finn Taylor get any time to rest? Jessica Daimler expressed her suspicions. But that was useless. After all, It was the Japanese team that had arranged the competition schedule. Just like that, Finn Taylor played consecutive matches. By the time afternoon came, Kuro Takeda had finished all his matches. Almost everyone who had been scheduled against him had practically given up the moment they realized that they were up against him. With that, Kuro Takeda ended the matches in record time and was thrust right into the finals. He was already resting while Finn Taylor still competed, playing one match after another. Although these competitors were no match for Finn Taylor, they tried to prolong the games. Each match lasted almost an hour. Because of that, the competition lasted all the way until 11:30 at night. Eventually, Finn Taylor defeated all the other competitors to qualify for the finals. He had gone without food or drink the entire day. Finn Taylor stood up unsteadily, gazing at Yoshi Masaki. "Tomorrow, I'll be sure to crush your disciple in Japan under my feet. No matter what you do, you won't match up to us." Yoshi Masaki acted as though he hadn't heard a single word of Finn Taylor's threat. Instead, he simply stood up and turned to the audience. "I'm sorry, everyone. I just received news that my family member was suddenly sent to the emergency room. I have to rush back, so Japan will bow out of this competition this time. We'll give up the championship title to these little kids here." Yoshi Masaki stunned everyone at the scene, and Finn Taylor and Jessica Daimler shared a gaze. Everyone's eyes were filled with confusion. What is Yoshi Masaki trying to do? "Mr. Yoshi, you're the top chess player in the world. What's the point of this competition going on if you forfeit your place?" "That's right, there'd be no point in this competition if we win this championship with no competition at all. Mr. Yoshi, you're being very disrespectful." The representatives of each country stood up one after another, expressing their discontent. "But I really can't stay till the end of this competition." Yoshi Masaki expressed his sincere apology once again. Just then, someone shouted, "Why don't we start the finals now? You'll be able to return home once we end. That should be fine, right?" "That's right, we should start the finals right away. Ms. Daimler, you wouldn't mind, would you?" It was only then that Finn Taylor and the others from his team realized the reason behind Yoshi Masaki's show. Finn Taylor had been competing for over 10 consecutive hours. On the other hand, Kuro Takeda had ended his matches quickly and gone back to rest. One was dog-tired, while the other was full of energy. It was an unfair match to begin with, and Jessica Daimler started to refuse their suggestions. "There's no point in playing such an unfair match." "What do you mean, Jessica Daimler? Mr. Yoshi's wife is sick, and he needs to rush back. Don't you think you're really cold and uncaring by denying him that right?" "That's right, are all American chess players this heartless? Start the competition right away. Otherwise, we'll never attend American organized competitions again." "I agree, me too." One by one, the other competitors stood up for the Japanese team, criticizing the American team. It was obvious that the Japanese team had set this up, yet everyone chose to ignore that fact. Of course, it wasn't because they chose to do so but because they had been in cahoots with the Japanese team from the very beginning. Finn Taylor stood up and glared at Yoshi Masaki. "I can start the match now, but I have a request." As soon as Finn Taylor finished his sentence, everyone erupted in disagreement. "How dare you? You're just a boy who's still wet behind the ears. How dare you make a request of Mr. Yoshi? Look at these young players from America. They know nothing about respect." But Finn Taylor remained indifferent. "What's your request? After defeating your disciple, I want to challenge you. I don't think you're worthy of being the top in the world." Hiss. Everyone drew a sharp breath in. He's too smug. It's been years since anyone has ever gone against Yoshi Masaki. In our eyes, he's unbeatable and a legend. He's asking to be humiliated by going against Yoshi Masaki. "Mr. Yoshi, you mustn't agree to that." "That's right, if even this boy can challenge you, you'll be disrespected." To everyone's surprise, Yoshi Masaki replied blandly, "All right. I'll take it as giving my juniors some advice." With that, the audience started praising Yoshi Masaki. "You're so humble, Mr. Yoshi." "That's right, you're really the top in the world, Mr. Yoshi. Not only are you good at chess, but your character is also superb. Yes, this is a man worthy of being the top in the world. Look at how he carries himself. He's nothing like those people who ride on the laurels of their predecessors but aren't capable of doing anything themselves." Jessica Daimler knew that they were criticizing her, yet there was nothing she could do. The truth was that she couldn't match up to Mr. Yoshi. In order to maintain the nation's reputation, she had no choice but to give herself the title of the world's best female player. Yet, that was exactly why she had become the subject of ridicule. Finn Taylor and Kuro Takeda took their seats. Eventually, Kuro Takeda was allowed to make the first move. Sitting in front of Finn Taylor, he appeared composed. He knew full well that this wasn't a fair match to begin with, yet he hadn't refused when his master first offered him this solution. Fairness didn't exist in this world. Japan had won the championship several times, yet they still weren't the governing committee of the International Chess Association. Was that fair? Today, we'll use such unfair methods to crush our opponent's sand with that, the entire American chess world. My master even said that this is merely the beginning. There is more to come that will ensure my victory. The two players made their moves. Finn Taylor was quick, but Kuro Takeda was extremely slow. In fact, he took 5 minutes to make a move. This was Kuro Takeda's strategy. He was well rested, while his opponent was exhausted. With that, he would drag the match past midnight and into the wee hours of the morning. He simply didn't believe that Finn Taylor would still have the mental capacity to continue playing. When that time came, victory would eventually be his. Although Finn Taylor was indeed slightly groggy and unsteady, he still made his moves just as quickly. Kuro Takeda stared on in disbelief. Can humans really be this strong? In the blink of an eye, another half an hour passed. The clock struck midnight. On the chessboard, it was clear that Finn Taylor had started to take the lead. Yet, Kuro Takeda wasn't the slightest bit nervous. It has only been half an hour. In another half an hour's time, I will be sure to take the win. Go get some glucose over, Jessica Daimler instructed her disciple. Afraid of disrupting the game, Megan Daimler immediately set off. But it was midnight, and it was almost impossible to find what she wanted. Finally, Megan Daimler knocked on the door of a pharmacy. This was a pharmacist that Megan Daimler knew. He was over 90 years of age. Sir, do you have any glucose? Yes. Are you feeling unwell? No, but I have no time to explain this to you right now. Just give me some glucose for now. Immediately, Megan Daimler ran back with the glucose and poured it into a cup before returning to the competition site. With light steps, she walked up to Finn Taylor and fed him with a spoon. Finn Taylor wasn't in any position to refuse. After all, he was on the verge of collapsing. He desperately needed to replenish his energy. If you're not a competitor, please leave the stage. Yoshi Masaki nodded furtively at a judge to chase Megan Daimler away. He needs to replenish his energy. Please leave. He won't be able to continue unless he eats something. Please leave right now. You'll be disrupting the competition otherwise, and your country will lose this match. As Megan Daimler glared at the judge, Finn Taylor snatched the cup over and gulped the glucose solution down. I'm fine, you can leave. Only then did Megan Daimler finally leave reluctantly. The competition continued, and Finn Taylor seemed to be taking an even greater lead. Yet, Kuro Takeda was in no hurry at all. Does Finn Taylor think that he'll be able to replenish his energy just by taking some glucose? The biggest thing he has going against him is fatigue. It's been hours since he's gotten a proper rest. I'm sure that his brain is about to explode and that he's on the verge of breaking down. Another half an hour passed. Almost all the pieces left on the board were Finn Taylor's. It looked like the competition was about to end soon. Just then, Finn Taylor received a video on his phone. San Francisco. On the day that Finn Taylor and Willow Stone had left San Francisco, Yvette Larson had gone out shopping with her best friend. Following that, the best friends had been kidnapped. Now, in a dimly lit room, the two women had been tied up with ropes, their eyes and mouths taped shut. If not for the fact that they had been placed next to each other and could feel each other's presence, they might very well have lost it. Bro, these two ladies are so pretty. Why don't you play with them? There were another two men in the room. One was sitting while the other was standing. The man sitting was the mastermind of the kidnapping Black Fox. The one standing was none other than Quince Larson. After selling the company, he had earned a huge sum of money. It was the first time he had so much money on hand, and someone had invited him to a casino. In the short span of 3 days, not only had he lost all his assets, but he had even gotten himself into debt. He was clearly to be blamed for this, yet he pushed the blame to his cousin. If not for Yvette Larson resigning from her position, I never would have landed in this state. Through his connections, he heard that someone planned to kidnap Yvette Larson and was looking for lackeys. Naturally, he was game. After joining the organization, he went all out, not caring about his dignity at all. Eventually, he became Black Fox's most trusted right-hand man. Black Fox glanced at Yvette Larson and Clarine Landon. Indeed, the women we caught this time are wonderful. If not for the fact that I had gotten strict instructions to leave them alone, I would have violated them a long time ago. Shut the fuck up. I might be a thief, but I have my morals. Quince Larson was disappointed and couldn't help but look down on Black Fox. What do you mean? I bet you're just afraid that you won't get paid. Boss, you can go have some fun. Leave this to me. Black Fox nodded. His thirst for women was now insatiable since he couldn't touch these gorgeous women in front of him. He had to go out to have some fun on his own. When Black Fox left, Quince Larson walked up to his cousin and slapped her in the face. Bitch. Then, he ripped the tape off her mouth. Ever since Quince Larson had entered the organization, he had learned to change his voice at will. As such, he believed that the other wouldn't be able to recognize his voice. Who are you? Your ancestor. With that, he slapped Yvette Larson once more. Boo-hoo. Clarine Landon couldn't hold it in any longer, and Quince Larson ripped the tape off her mouth as well. Why are you shouting? No matter how much you shout, nobody is going to come to your rescue. Do you two bitches know just what you've done? Now that I've caught you, I'm going to kill both of you. Yvette Larson was intelligent and knew from his words that they knew each other. This kidnapping seemed fishy. We've done nothing wrong. Why don't you tell us what we've done? You bitch, how dare you deny it? You married a useless husband, ruined your family's reputation, and made them go bankrupt. Don't you think that's bad enough? Quince Larson. Even though he had changed his voice, Yvette Larson recognized him. Quince Larson, we're relatives no matter what. I can't believe that you're doing this. Quince Larson had only said those words out of spite, but he'd never expected his cousin to recognize him. In an instant, he flew into a frenzy. Quince Larson quickly sealed the duo's mouths yet again. 2 or 3 days after Yvette Larson and her best friend had been captured, Quince Larson took the opportunity when Black Fox was distracted to slash the latter in the neck with a dagger, killing him instantly. While Black Fox wasn't a renowned figure, he still had dozens of subordinates. He'd never expected to die in such a pathetic manner. The only reason Quince Larson had killed him was that he had gotten into a fight with him the previous day. Quince Larson wanted to threaten Yvette Larson to hand over even more money since her family was rich, yet Black Fox refused immediately, saying that it was against the industry's rules. At that time, Quince Larson hadn't rebutted him, but he couldn't help but get more incensed the more he thought about it. It felt terrible to let Yvette Larson go just like that. As such, he made a decision to kill Black Fox and cut off all contact from their superiors. With his cousin's phone, he shot a video of Yvette Larson and Clarine Landon in captivity and sent it directly to Finn Taylor. Finn Taylor was still in the middle of his match against Kuro Takeda when he received that video. The moment he opened it, he nearly leapt up. He exuded a strong murderous intent, and his gaze was fixed on Yoshi Masaki. However, the latter acted as though he knew nothing. He simply sat there, unmoving. It's your turn. Kuro Takeda spoke up. He was no longer taking that long to make each move, but Finn Taylor had already grown annoyed a long time ago. Kuro Takeda is obviously losing. What's he trying to do by extending this game? You've lost, alright. Finn Taylor was already frustrated to begin with, wanted his opponent to admit his defeat. I've lost. I don't think so. There are so many more moves I can make, so why should I admit defeat now? With that, Kuro Takeda made his move. However, his moves were now meaningless. He simply didn't want to admit defeat and wanted to drag the match on. That irritated Finn Taylor even more. One move and then another. Finn Taylor had to resist the urge to flip the table. What's the point of continuing with this match? Yoshi Masaki, can't you tell that your disciple has already lost? Finally, Jessica Daimler could no longer hold herself back and started lambasting Yoshi Masaki. However, that bore no effect. No, there are still some moves he can make. Don't tell me that you guys are such cowards that you have to surrender. Not only was Yoshi Masaki shameless, but he even tried to insult them instead. Finn Taylor gritted his teeth. Just then, he received a message on his phone. I'll give you 3 days. I want $1 billion, otherwise, I'll kill them. Finn Taylor felt that something was amiss the moment he read the message. If Yoshi Masaki was the one to kidnap my wife, the kidnapper should have asked me to surrender immediately. Why is he asking me to pay him in 3 days' time? Either this kidnapper wasn't hired by Yoshi Masaki, or there's been some miscommunication between them. No matter what it is, this is good news. For now, Yvette is safe. 3 days were more than sufficient for Finn Taylor to return to San Francisco to look for his wife. San Francisco. Within the hut, Quince Larson tore the tape off his captives' mouths and even eyes. You're very smart, Yvette. You recognized my voice, but so what? Do you think you can escape? Yvette Larson glared at her cousin. Quince Larson, you'll die a pathetic death. You won't even have a proper burial. Oh, Great, so be it then. Quince Larson laughed and handed the phone over to his cousin. I asked your husband for $1 billion in 3 days' time. Do you think that piece of trash will sell number 1 Pacific Heights to save you, or do you think he'll marry a younger and more beautiful woman once you die? After all, he hasn't had a good life over the past 3 years. This was a pertinent question. Even birds would try to save themselves in the face of danger. Would Finn Taylor do the same? Shut up. Finn Taylor will definitely come for us. Clarine Landon lashed out at Quince Larson. She couldn't stand the sight of him. What do you have to do with this? She's my relative, so I can't do anything to her. Do you think I don't dare to strip you naked? Quince Larson's threat shut Clarine Landon up. Hey. The tides were now turning again in the game between Finn Taylor and Kuro Takeda. The latter was starting to move quickly, while the former seemed to be unbothered and started to slow down. Of course, this didn't go unnoticed by Kuro Takeda and Yoshi Masaki. It was hard for them to understand what had happened. He should have already received news of his wife being kidnapped. Shouldn't he be frantic now? He made that clear earlier, but what's going on now? The two players made one move after another. Kuro Takeda initially thought that his opponent had simply put up a brave front to scare him, but he realized that the latter was getting more steady as time went on. The result of him carelessly making his moves earlier was that he was going to die a quick death now. In the past, anyone who could force him into making 100 moves could be considered to have won the match. But now, they had nearly made 100 moves, yet there was still no end in sight. Almost all the chess pieces were off the board, and Kuro Takeda had taken a great hit. It seemed as though his soul had been taken out of him. He stood up and dropped the chess piece in his hand. I lost. Time seemed to come to a standstill. The audience had egged Finn Taylor into this unfair match against Kuro Takeda, but who would have expected such a result? Kuro Takeda still lost in the end. The moment his disciple admitted defeat, Yoshi Masaki seemed to exude murderous intent. Right then, Finn Taylor landed his gaze on Yoshi Masaki. Come down here, you old hag. I'm going to strip you of your title as the top chess player in the world. Old hag. The moment Finn Taylor said those words, the entire hall fell into silence. The atmosphere was stifling. Yet, nobody dared to say a thing against Finn Taylor because he had defeated Kuro Takeda. Nobody had seen this coming. Of course, nobody but Yoshi Masaki had the right to criticize Finn Taylor. Everyone was waiting to see how the former would react. Eventually, the man in question stood up and glanced at Finn Taylor. What a disrespectful young man. Just wait and see how I'll destroy you. SoundStories Audiobooks. Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Yoshi Masaki slowly stepped forward toward Finn Taylor until the two men were face to face with each other. I'm not going to go easy on you. I'm going to crush you under my feet. Finn Taylor simply ignored him. Yesterday, I wanted to put the Japanese team in their place after hearing Jessica Daimler's words. Today, I experienced such unfairness. He hated Yoshi Masaki to the guts, especially after what had happened to his wife. But for Yoshi Masaki, he'd never admit that he was second to anyone in chess. Finn Taylor swore to himself that he was going to defeat Yoshi Masaki in the most brutal way possible. As soon as the two men took their seats, Finn Taylor placed one hand on the chessboard. 3 rules. First, you'll go first, and I'll go second. Secondly, you'll win if you finish within 100 moves. Over that, and I'll lose. Lastly, speed is key here. 5 seconds is the limit, and you'll lose if you take any longer than that. Are you up to the challenge, old man? Yoshi Masaki couldn't help but feel that he was being humiliated by his opponent. Given Finn Taylor's rules, it wouldn't be glorious for me even if I were to win. That doesn't sound right. Scram then, old man. This is Americami turf. You're in no place to speak. Those are the rules. Are you still up for it? Yoshi Masaki was so infuriated that he nearly blew his top. Young man, you're crazy. But since you insist, I'll let you see the difference between us. Following that, the two men started the game. The 5-second rule was nearly useless in this game. The two players took no more than a second or two to make their moves. The speed was phenomenal. The audience didn't even have time to think about their next moves before the chess pieces were moved. Just like that, 50 moves were made, half of the 100 Finn Taylor had mentioned. Yoshi Masaki was indeed deserving of being the top chess player in the world. It was clear to the audience that he held the upper hand. It looks like Finn Taylor is in trouble. Megan Daimler couldn't help but furrow her brows in worry. Even her master started breaking out into cold sweat. We must believe in him. It wasn't just Finn Taylor's reputation on the line, but the entire American chess circles. If he were to lose this match, the American chess circle would definitely have to give in to Yoshi Masaki from now on. The match went on. It was nearly checkmate. Young man, you're going to lose. Finn Taylor ignored the other and continued making his move. Even though he had had his turn, he was still on the losing end. The result seemed set. Is there still a need to continue? Finn Taylor chuckled. Don't we still have 30 moves? We're almost there then. It was obvious to the audience that something had changed in Finn Taylor as he said those words. Dead. The moment Finn Taylor made his next move, Yoshi Masaki's face paled. I've been taken for a ride. That's right. Finn Taylor had played him. From the very beginning, Finn Taylor's so-called unfavorable situation was no more than a ploy he had been setting up, and his opponent had taken the bait. Yoshi Masaki tried his best to turn the tides, yet he realized that he was only falling deeper into the trap no matter how hard he tried. On his 95th move, Yoshi Masaki's moves were numbered. On his 96th, he was in grave danger. On his 97th, he had already lost whatever advantage he previously held. On his 98th, he had no way out. On the 99th, he lost. As Finn Taylor made the 100th move, he looked at Yoshi Masaki. You lost, old man. I see that the Japanese aren't very impressive after all. You said that I'm still wet behind the ears, but even the top player of Japan can't beat me. It's true that I'm not the top in the world. In fact, I'm not even ranked amongst the top 10 in the USA. I have teachers and seniors who are more skilled than me, but the top player of Japan can't even beat me. How dare you call yourself the top in the world? Hee. I've never seen such a shameless person in my life. Finn Taylor tore into Yoshi Masaki with every word. The latter felt utterly miserable. He'd just been completely humiliated. He had started the game, yet he'd been thrashed. From now on, he'd no longer be the top chess player in the world. In fact, he'd be viewed as a joke in the chess circle. Ah, Yoshi Masaki spat out blood as he collapsed. That was how he passed on. Finn Taylor casually tossed his last chess piece on Yoshi Masaki's face. The Japanese team had been defeated, and simultaneously, the American team had been propelled to the forefront. Finn Taylor glanced around, but none of the other players dared to meet his gaze. Of course, the former had no time to care about them. He rushed out of the hall and made a call to Felicity. Book me the earliest flight back to San Francisco immediately. Jessica Daimler and the rest of the team were no fools, and they instantly realized that something was wrong. Something must have happened earlier. What's going on, Finn? Willow Stone chased behind him and asked, Yvette's in trouble. Huh, what do you mean? Although Willow Stone liked Finn Taylor and wanted to snatch him from her best friend, Yvette Larson was still her best friend. It was only natural for her to worry about the other. She's been kidnapped. I still don't know who's behind this. Kidnapped? Jessica Daimler was stupefied. Do you think it was Yoshi Masaki? Megan Daimler voiced out Jessica Daimler's thoughts. Don't spout nonsense. However, that isn't entirely impossible either. While Jessica Daimler seemed to be chiding her disciple, it was obviously a reminder to Finn Taylor as well. They did it. Jessica Daimler had never expected Finn Taylor to admit to it right away. Then, why are you leaving? You should arrest them and get to the bottom of this. Forget it. There was a breakdown in communication between the kidnappers. Yvette and Clarine Landon are no longer under the control of Yoshi Masaki. Although none of them understood what Finn Taylor was saying, they chose to trust him. Mr. Taylor, the flight has been reserved. No sooner had Finn Taylor walked out of the hall than Felicity presented him with the plane tickets. Let's go. Willow Stone was in a frenzy. Me too. Megan Daimler concurred. While her face was flushed, she appeared resolute. Finn Taylor had no time nor capacity to care about these two women for the time being. He simply took the ticket from Felicity and headed straight for the airport. Anyway, Felicity had only bought a single ticket. The women could find their own way back to San Francisco. The results of the championship in Chicago soon spread to San Francisco. At the same time, Finn Taylor was on the way back. Those old men in San Francisco were naturally delighted to learn that Finn Taylor had won the competition. Based on their logic, it seemed that the San Francisco Chess Association was the one that won the competition since Finn Taylor had represented them. Since they were part of the association, they had won the competition too. But when they heard that Finn Taylor had foregone attending the award ceremony and would return without a trophy or medal, the old men fumed. The few dozen old men rushed into Carl Gillies's office. Carl, what is going on? Why didn't Finn Taylor attend the award ceremony? That's right, that trophy is mine. How am I going to show it off to others now that he didn't collect it? Yes, he didn't take the medal either. The old men were so shameless that it was embarrassing, but Carl Gillies was dumbfounded. Hold on, didn't Finn Taylor attend the competition alone? Why are the trophy and medal yours? It's his choice not to collect them, so why should he have to answer to you? Of course, they weren't going to take Carl Gillies' advice in. He's just a useless matrilocal son-in-law, so what right does he have to own that trophy and medal? If not for us, he wouldn't even have had the chance to attend that competition. It's only right that we get the trophy and medal. This won't do. I'm going to the Larson family's residence. Hey, I received a message that Finn Taylor is on the way back. He'll arrive at the airport in half an hour's time. Come on, let's go stop him there. Yes, he has to give us a good answer. The few dozen old men stormed off to the airport. To that, Carl Gillies could only sigh. This will probably be the last time I'm meeting these men. They're courting death. How could they offend Master Peregrine of all people? San Francisco, the airport. By then, dozens of old men had arrived in full force at the airport. The people of San Francisco were no stranger to them. They were prominent figures in the city after all. If one were to combine all of their assets, they would probably own more than half of the entire San Francisco. Why are they all gathered here? Are they welcoming someone? But who would that be? Even Third Master Gold wouldn't be that respected. Everyone couldn't help but stop in their tracks to watch on in curiosity. Who could it possibly be? Finn Taylor was in a rush to get off the plane to look for his wife, yet he was surrounded by a whole gang of old men as soon as he stepped out of the plane. Stop right there, Finn Taylor. Where's my trophy? Where's my medal? Their chatter annoyed Finn Taylor to no end. Scram! Finn Taylor could no longer hold his irritation in and lashed out at them. How dare you scold us? You're just a piece of trash. How dare you? Fuck, just wait and see how I'll kill you. All the old men were raging and raring to have their turn at punching Finn Taylor, who no longer held himself back either. With one kick, he threw the fiercest of the lot onto the ground. While these old men were no strangers to kicking up such a huge fuss, they still feared death. Eventually, they opened up a path for Finn Taylor, who flew straight to Hunter Sullivan's residence. When he arrived, the four guardians were all kneeling on the ground. They were petrified to say the least. The four guardians were amongst the top bosses in the city, yet even they couldn't help but tremble in fear. They had committed a grave error this time. Yvette Larson had been kidnapped. Finn Taylor had instructed them to watch out for his wife before leaving the city, yet they had allowed her to be kidnapped. The more troubling fact was that they hadn't noticed her disappearance for 3 whole days. In fact, it was Finn Taylor who had informed them about this. Now, all they could do was pray for Yvette Larson to be safe. If anything happened to her, they could forget about keeping their lives. How impressive! Pukwudgie, Thunderbird, Horned Serpent, and Wampus, 4 guardians who are said to have no rivals in this whole world. You're a bunch of idiots. A bunch of idiots. Not a single one of the 4 guardians dared to rebut Finn Taylor as he lashed out at them. Get up, all of you. Zachary Kennedy, find Yvette's location. Scolding them wasn't going to solve the problem. What mattered was saving his wife. Analyze this video. Finn Taylor threw his phone over to Logan Yates. Go to the Larson family's residence and see who's not there, Finn Taylor instructed Alexander Scott. Now, only Hunter Sullivan remained. You've had the most interactions with Yvette. You'd better hope that she's fine. Hunter Sullivan was on the verge of breaking down. He knew that Finn Taylor trusted him the most amongst the 4 guardians. With trust came power, and with power came responsibility. If anything happened, he'd have to take the blame for the team. Don't worry, Master Peregrine. She'll be fine. Hunter Sullivan didn't know what else to say. His words seemed more of a comfort to him than for Finn Taylor. Master Peregrine, look at Ms. Larson's eyes. Logan Yates spotted the first problem. He enlarged Yvette Larson's eyes and saw a figure reflected in them. Can you recognize that person? That's a tough one. I'll need some time. As he said so, Logan Yates continued his analysis. Before long, Alexander Scott returned. Master Peregrine, Quince Larson and Eleanor Larson aren't at home and have been missing for quite a long time. Could they have been the ones? Finn Taylor's suspicions arose. Look, Master Peregrine. Finally, Logan Yates made a discovery. He blew up the photo of the figure. They all turned to the screen, only to realize that the face staring right back at them was Quince Larson. Master Peregrine, I've found their location. They're in this abandoned warehouse. Alexander Scott's skills were exceptional. Nobody could escape his tracking unless they were dead. Alexander Scott, go to St. Cloud Hospital and get Joseph Larson out of his coma. It's time that old man wakes up. Logan Yates, go to Quince Larson's residence and bring his parents to the Larson family's residence. Zachary Kennedy, continue tracking their locations and give us updates. Hunter Sullivan, come with me. You have the biggest responsibility. If you don't manage to save Yvette this time, your head is going to roll. No sooner had Finn Taylor and Hunter Sullivan reached the foot of Pacific Heights than they ran into Willow Stone and Megan Daimler. The duo had caught the next flight back and had finally arrived in San Francisco. Are you guys going to save Yvette? Willow Stone grabbed hold of Finn Taylor's arm, refusing to let go. Let go. I have no time to deal with you now. I want to go too. No way. Finn Taylor naturally wasn't going to let Willow Stone come along. He was sure to reveal some secrets this time, and it would be inconvenient with her there. What are you afraid of? What does Willow Stone know? What's she trying to find out? But Finn Taylor had only one thing to say to her: I have nothing to tell you. With that, he got into the car and drove off with Hunter Sullivan. A smile crept up Willow Stone's face as she watched the car disappear into the horizon. How interesting. This man is keeping many more secrets than I expected. Initially, she had simply thought that Finn Taylor wasn't much of a piece of trash and was well trained in martial arts too. She had simply made him out to be a secretive and private man that would be helpful in her plan. But now, it seemed like she had underestimated him. This man was giving her surprise after surprise. Compared to Willow Stone, Megan Daimler was nowhere near as scheming. She was simply afraid that Finn Taylor would be in danger. She hadn't even considered anything else. With Alexander Scott's detailed directions, Finn Taylor found the abandoned warehouse very quickly. Be careful not to let Quince Larson slip. By kidnapping Yvette Larson, Quince Larson had crossed a boundary. This time, Finn Taylor was going to make him pay. That meant that he couldn't just let the other escape. Since this was an abandoned warehouse, many of the buildings were already beyond repair. That left them with only one building to search. Finn Taylor pointed to his left. Go up from there. He then proceeded to the right. The pair surrounded the building from both sides. Ground floor, clear. Second floor, clear. Third floor, clear. All that's left is the fourth floor. Finn Taylor nodded at Hunter Sullivan, reminding him to be careful not to let Quince Larson escape. With that, they sprung into action and rushed up the stairs to the fourth floor. There, Quince Larson was watching over his cousin and her best friend, still daydreaming about becoming a billionaire. Yvette, oh Yvette, why don't you guess if Finn Taylor will sell number 1 Pacific Heights for your sake? I know I wouldn't. You're just a woman, and he can always marry another. Although he's a piece of trash, I must say that it won't be difficult for him to find a new wife given the fact that he owns such a luxurious property. As for you, he hasn't even touched you in the past 3 years. You probably don't even have any feelings for each other. I've always been curious about why he's held himself back. You're honestly quite beautiful. If not for the fact that I'm related to you, I wouldn't even be able to hold myself back," said Quince Larson as he turned to Clarine Landon. "But this young lady has nothing to do with me. Why don't I start from you?" With that said, he took a step closer to Clarine Landon. Scram! Clarine Landon refused to give in as she spat at Quince Larson. "PFF'd, you shameless fool." Quince Larson slapped the young lady viciously in the face. "You'd better not hit her. If you go on, I'll kill myself right here. Then, you can dream on about getting your money." Yvette Larson knew full well that her best friend was only being tortured because of her, so she tried to protect the latter as best as she could. As expected, her words stopped Quince Larson right in his tracks. He froze instantaneously. "Forget it. Once I have $1 billion, I can have as many women as I want. I won't need the two of you." No sooner had Quince Larson sat down than the door was kicked open from outside. "You'd better stay alive to get your money then." Quince Larson turned around at the noise. The sight before him was jaw-dropping. "Finn Taylor, how did you find this place?" Quince Larson couldn't wrap his head around the situation. "I made no errors at all, so how had Finn Taylor found me?" "Kill him," Hunter Sullivan roared as he charged forward. His hatred for the other ran deep. "One of them had to die today. Mr. Sullivan, why are you here? Why are you beating me up?" It was only then that Quince Larson realized that Hunter Sullivan had arrived with Finn Taylor. But what connection do the two of them have? This was something Quince Larson couldn't understand. There are some things you don't have to know about. With his power and skills, Hunter Sullivan quickly subdued Quince Larson. "Don't kill him, he can't die just yet. Take him to the car." "Quince Larson naturally can't die yet. Nobody knows about what he has done, nor has our grandpa spilled the truth yet. Yvette Larson was crushed by dozens of men but is still standing, so there is no way Quince Larson is going to die so easily." Finn Taylor released the ropes binding his wife, and she pounced into his embrace, bursting into tears. Finn Taylor hugged her and comforted her gently. It's all right, I'm here. Things will get better. Over the past few days, Yvette Larson had missed her husband dearly. She had once thought that marrying him was the biggest insult of her entire life, but she now realized that Finn Taylor owned her heart. She was never going to leave him in this lifetime. Ahem, I don't really want to interrupt, but could you guys cut the rope away from me first? Clarine Landon looked pitiful as she cut in. She didn't mind the couple displaying their affection for each other, but they had to be humane and let her go first. It was only then that Yvette Larson realized that her best friend was still bound. What, can't I hug my husband? Nonetheless, she loosened the ropes around her best friend. All right, go on and show off your love for each other. I'm leaving. Forget it, you already interrupted us, and I'm no longer in the mood for that. Finn Taylor giggled the moment he heard that. Yvette, let's go to the Larson family's residence. There's a show of the century waiting for us there. He had been waiting for this day for the past 3 years. Today was finally the day to act. He was going to get revenge for all the injustice his wife had faced at the hands of the Larson family. That stupid eldest grandson who had trampled on him for the past 3 years was going to die today. Yvette Larson was slightly taken aback, not understanding what her husband was up to. However, she had a premonition that Finn Taylor was about to do something groundbreaking. Perhaps it would even change the course of the Larson family's future for the next 10 years. Finn Taylor ushered his wife into the car, where Hunter Sullivan and Quince Larson were already waiting. Finn Taylor, where are you taking me to? Perhaps terminal lucidity was real. For some reason, Quince Larson couldn't help but feel apprehensive as though something bad was going to happen. Somewhere you yearn to be. Isn't your greatest wish to become the head of the Larson family? But you've been the temporary head, not the real head. Today, we're going to have a real family head. Aren't you excited? Finn Taylor, what are you trying to do? Quince Larson roared. If not for the fact that he was currently being held down by Hunter Sullivan, he would have started a fight with the other a long time ago. Very quickly, the group arrived at the Larson family's residence. Finn Taylor supported his wife, and they strolled in casually. As for Quince Larson, he was wrestled into the house by Hunter Sullivan. Finn Taylor threw a glance at the century-old ancestral shrine. Dozens of the Larson family's ancestors' ashes were housed here. They were the ones who had established the Larson family over the years. Although the Larson family wasn't exceptionally well-known, they were still more prominent than an average family. Unfortunately, they didn't cherish what they had and were always trying to make a name for themselves. They weren't very capable to begin with, yet they broke countless industry rules. If they had made use of Finn Taylor, they might have risen up a long time ago. You seem very moved. Are you thinking of something? Yvette Larson observed her husband from the back, feeling a trace of coldness. Finn Taylor had indeed thought of something. The Taylor family. The Taylor family was similar to the Larson family. The only thing different was that one was bigger than the other. Just thinking about the past. All of a sudden, he turned around and looked in a certain direction. They're here. Yvette Larson followed his gaze and spotted Franklin Larson and his wife, who were being escorted in by Logan Yates. Seeing their son Quince Larson thrown on the ground, Franklin Larson flared up. Finn Taylor, what are you trying to do? What did my son do? Why are you doing this to him? Finn Taylor sneered at the other. Why don't you ask your precious son what he did? Did he really do something he shouldn't have? Franklin Larson turned to his son. Hurry up and tell me what you did. Dad, I kidnapped Yvette in a moment of folly. I didn't do it on purpose. I lost all my money while gambling, and someone recruited me as a lackey. They were the ones who kidnapped her. It's none of my business. Finn Taylor let out a sinister smile. Things have already progressed to this point, but he's still full of lies and trying to trick everyone. Finn Taylor, we're all relatives. You'd better ask your son what else he's done to wrong the Larson family. Otherwise, you might faint later on when you learn the truth. There's more. Franklin Larson was jaw-dropped. How much is my son hiding from me? Dad, I swear there's nothing else. He's just trying to scare both of us into spouting nonsense later. Franklin Larson was no fool. Given his understanding of his son, the latter was definitely hiding some secrets from him. However, he didn't believe that Finn Taylor knew the details of those secrets either. Just like his son said, Finn Taylor was probably trying to get them to reveal the secrets on their own accord. Since that was the case, Franklin Larson wasn't going to fall into the other's trap. Hee. Finn Taylor, why don't you just show us the evidence if you have any? Otherwise, you'd better not spout nonsense here. Franklin Larson was calm and composed as he rebutted Finn Taylor. The latter didn't reply. It's not the right time yet. I'll wait. The Larson family isn't here yet. Besides, Joseph Larson is still in the hospital. They're here. Franklin Larson pointed into the distance, where Frederick Larson was walking from. Not long after, Quinn Larson arrived with Hilary Stone. Last to arrive were Francis Larson and Linda James, since they lived at Pacific Heights, which was a long way away. Finally, everyone was here. Mom, the moment she spotted her mother, Yvette Larson could no longer hold her emotions in and rushed over. Initially, Linda James had no idea about what had happened. She had thought that her daughter had been visiting her best friend. It was Willow Stone who had informed her about her daughter's abduction. Naturally, she was relieved to see her daughter safe and sound. My precious daughter, it must have been hard on you. As the mother and daughter shared a hug, what shocked everyone was Francis Larson, who had always been a man of few words, walking up to Quince Larson and slapping him square in the face. What are you doing? Franklin Larson yelled out at his brother. Franklin Larson, I'm your elder brother. I don't like being the center of attention, but that doesn't mean you can bully us. Your son kidnapped my daughter. Trust me, can kill you if you push me too far. Then, an even more stupefying scene played out. Francis Larson whipped out a fruit knife and held it against his brother's neck. Francis Larson was down to earth, but that didn't mean he was a fool. Being down to earth didn't mean that he could be trampled upon. If he were to press down just an inch further, Franklin Larson would be dead. You bro, don't act so rashly. We're family, so there's no need to go so far. Franklin Larson was now fuming. It was rare for someone like Francis Larson to flare up, but they couldn't be contained once they did. Calm down, Dad, leave this to me. Although Finn Taylor respected his father-in-law for doing so, he had other plans. It would be terrible if Francis Larson ruined everything for him. The pair shared a gaze that lasted a couple of minutes. Finally, Finn Taylor retrieved the fruit knife from the other's grip. It was only then that Franklin Larson let out a sigh of relief. Earlier on, he had felt as though he had really towed the line of death. Dad, the show is about to begin. Just hold on for a while longer. Almost everyone from the Larson family is here. We're just missing someone. Frederick Larson spoke up. Finn Taylor, if you're talking about Eleanor, you don't have to wait for her. She's gone abroad for a vacation. Finn Taylor sneered. Do you think I'd be waiting for such a dirty slut? Look who's here. The entire family turned their eyes in the direction Finn Taylor was pointing, the entrance of the Larson family's residence. There, a van was parked in front of the residence. Under the family's watchful gazes, the door was slowly pulled open. The one who alighted from the van was no stranger to the Larson family. It was Alexander Scott. He was a renowned figure throughout the nation, a man ranked on the Forbes list. It was only natural for the Larson family to know people like him like the back of their hands because of their desperate desire to enter upper-class society. But what they couldn't wrap their heads around was why Alexander Scott had alighted from the driver's seat and had even opened the passenger's door. He had become a chauffeur for someone. Who could that possibly be? As the passenger's door slowly opened, someone stepped out of the van. However, the van blocked their view, and they couldn't make out the figure. Everyone's faces were plastered with anxiety and curiosity all at once. As that person made his way around the van and approached the Larson family, their jaws dropped, and their eyes were filled with surprise. Francis Larson, Franklin Larson, and Frederick Larson rushed over at once. Dad. The man walking over was none other than the family head, Joseph Larson. Doctors had been sure that the old man would never recover from his vegetative state. In fact, they even thought that he might never wake up from his coma. Yet, he was standing in front of them as though nothing had happened. Of course, it meant nothing for Finn Taylor to treat Joseph Larson. He simply hadn't done so previously because it wasn't the right time to do so. But the right time had now come. The Larson family had to pay for everything they had done over the past 3 years. Dad, you've recovered. Dad, you're awake. Dad, why didn't you call us? We could have picked you up. Joseph Larson's 3 sons rushed up to help him, but the old man remained silent. He simply reached out and grabbed his eldest son's hand. The entire Larson family witnessed this. For some unknown reason, Franklin Larson had a bad premonition in his heart. Grandpa is here. We can start our family meeting now. Finn Taylor turned to Quince Larson. Are you going to say it, or should I say it? Quince Larson felt a chill run down his spine the moment he spotted his grandpa. What am I supposed to say? I have nothing to say, he stuttered, still trying to defend himself. All right, since you're not going to say it, I'll say it. The culprit who caused Grandpa to go into a vegetative state was you, Quince Larson. Finn Taylor's words were like a bolt out of the blue. The entire family shot their eyes at Joseph Larson. Why, you're lying. Finn Taylor, don't spout nonsense if you don't have any evidence. You were the one who hurt Grandpa. The gears in Quince Larson started turning, thoughts flooding his mind. Finn Taylor, you were the one who sent Grandpa to the hospital that day. How can this have nothing to do with you? Finn Taylor sneered and turned to Joseph Larson. The Larson family turned their gazes to the family head too. Finn Taylor was accusing Quince Larson of being the culprit, while Quince Larson was accusing the former of being the culprit. Now, only Joseph Larson could reveal the truth of the matter. Joseph Larson walked up to his grandson. Grandpa, I'm Quince, the eldest grandson of the Larson family. How could I possibly hurt you? Don't be fooled. Quince Larson tried to beg his grandpa for mercy through his gaze. That's right, Dad, even without this accident, Quince would have eventually become the family head. He has no reason to hurt you. Yes, Grandpa, you treat me so well, so why would I harm you? Quince Larson and his father tried to move the old master with their words. Slap. Joseph Larson landed a slap on his grandson's face. It wasn't a vicious one. In fact, there wasn't even a mark on the latter's face. However, that one action was enough to prove his intentions. Bast, you know just how well I treat you, yet this is how you repay me. Joseph Larson's words had pretty much revealed the truth. Everyone was in disbelief. From the very beginning, they had been sure that it was Finn Taylor who had hurt Joseph Larson. After all, Finn Taylor had all reason to do so given the humiliation he had faced over the past 3 years. Besides, he had also been the first person on scene after Joseph Larson's accident. Grandpa, I was wrong. It was a moment of folly. Grandpa, I'm begging you. Please let me off and forgive me this time. Grandpa, I know I was wrong. Quince Larson kowtowed repeatedly to his grandpa, but the latter turned around, not sparing his grandson a glance. If Quince Larson had done anything else, Joseph Larson might very well have forgiven him. However, his grandson had tried to kill him for the sake of the family head position. How vicious could he get? Take him down. Finn Taylor waved, and Hunter Sullivan and Alexander Scott brought Quince Larson away. Everyone from the Larson family knew just what awaited Quince Larson. This was probably the last time they would ever see the latter, but nobody pleaded for mercy on Quince Larson's behalf. He had poisoned his own grandpa just to claim the position of family head. Nobody dared to speak up for such a brutal man. Grandpa, you've been through so much. Your health must have deteriorated. Since everyone is here today, why don't you choose your successor now? Abdication. Revealing Quince Larson's actions was Finn Taylor's first step. Forcing Joseph Larson out of the position of family head was his second. Finn Taylor, nobody had expected Finn Taylor to take the opportunity to force Joseph Larson to choose a successor. Finn Taylor's question also meant that nobody else would ever stand a chance. Finn Taylor spotted disdain and reluctance on Joseph Larson's face. The latter obviously thought that he had the ability to rebuild the family once he recovered. However, the current Larson family was no longer the same Larson family it had been 3 years ago. Finn Taylor was no longer going to tolerate their bullying. He reached out and grabbed Joseph Larson's hand. Grandpa, please choose the next family head. Disbelief filled Joseph Larson's eyes. He had never thought such a day would come, a day when Finn Taylor would rise up and even subdue him. Joseph Larson's gaze fell on his granddaughter Yvette Larson. Amongst the third generation of the family, Quince Larson had tried to murder him while Eleanor Larson had done such a shameful thing. Naturally, both of them were out of the race. As for Quinn Larson, nobody even knew who his father was. How could he hand the family over to someone like that? That left him with only one choice: Yvette Larson. As the Larson family head, I declare that Yvette Larson will succeed me as the Larson family's 34th head. I'll abdicate from my position today. From now on, Yvette Larson will be our family's new family head. Everyone from the Larson family must do as she says or be punished by the ancestors. The Larson family members shook their heads and shut their eyes as Joseph Larson uttered each word. Only Yvette Larson, Frances Larson, and Linda James were delighted. It had been years since their family had started being suppressed in the Larson family. Their family had been humiliated by the rest of the family for years, and now, they'd finally turned the tides. Just as everyone thought that things would simply end at that, they witnessed Finn Taylor grabbing hold of Joseph Larson with no intention of letting go. Grandpa, choose an auspicious day for your cremation. Shock. Complete shock. Everyone was stupefied, and even Yvette Larson was at a loss for words. Finn Taylor had just made clear his intentions to drive Joseph Larson to his death. Finn Taylor, I've already stepped down from my position. Are you going to drive me to my death? A smile was plastered across Finn Taylor's face. Grandpa, do you think Yvette and I care a lot about the Larson family? You know very well just what we've been subjected to over the past 3 years. You might have stepped down, but Yvette won't be respected as the family head as long as you're alive. A country can't have two rulers. The same applies to a family. Of course, I have other choices to help Yvette cement her position as the family head. That would be to kill all of you. The Larson family will start from Yvette, and she'll be the first family head in that case. What do you think about that, Grandpa? Over the past 3 years, Joseph Larson had always regarded Finn Taylor as nothing more than a piece of trash. No matter how much he hit or scolded the latter, he would have no choice but to accept it. Who would have expected Finn Taylor to be so vicious once he bit back? Killing the entire Larson family and establishing a new Larson family starting from Yvette's generation. Joseph Larson didn't know how much to trust Finn Taylor. Dad, I beg you, please choose an auspicious date. Franklin Larson fell on his knees as his head hit the ground. He was asking his own father to die. With death on the line, Franklin Larson couldn't care less about his own father. Father, I hope you die. Frederick Larson fell on his knees as well. He didn't want to die either. Dad, if you don't die, I'm going to leave the Larson family with your only grandson. Hilary Stone fell on her knees as well. Joseph Larson had 4 children, but he had never liked his eldest son very much. That was why his eldest son's family had always been alienated, while the second, third, and fourth families were favored. Never in his life would he have thought that these 3 families would ask him to die. The Larson family's burial grounds in 3 days' time. Joseph Larson shut his eyes, regret flooding his mind. He didn't hate Finn Taylor, he hated himself. He had made way too many mistakes in this life. What kind of man was my father? He had insisted on Yvette Larson marrying Finn Taylor, so how could I have regarded him as a good-for-nothing? Fine, the Larson family's burial grounds. But 3 days later, Finn Taylor laughed. Grandpa, have you ever heard of this famous saying? What saying? Undue delay may bring trouble. A smile was plastered across Finn Taylor's face, yet his words were vicious. Joseph Larson wanted to die on his own accord in 3 days' time, but his grandson-in-law wasn't even going to give him 3 days. He simply said that a delay often brought more trouble. In short, he wanted Joseph Larson's life now. Disbelief and despair filled Joseph Larson's eyes. Finn Taylor, do you really hate me that much? Can't you give me 3 days? Finn Taylor sneered. If you'd only humiliated me, I would have given you 3 days. But have you thought about how you've treated Yvette? Do you still remember that piece of jade we bought? I'm sure you knew full well who bought the real piece between Yvette and Quince, but what did you end up doing? You smashed the real one that Yvette bought into pieces and proclaimed that Quince Larson bought the real one. That's just one event. Do you remember how Yvette and I represented the Larson family at the charity competition and won? But you said that Yvette smeared the family's name by letting me participate and forced her to kneel down as an apology to you. That's the second. Do you also remember about how Quince Larson tried to get someone to rape Yvette and how she nearly died? Even so, you simply told him to reflect on his actions and let him off just like that. You're so fair, Grandpa. Why don't you ask yourself whether the company ever would have succeeded in the collaboration with the Sullivan family if not for Yvette? But time and time again, you've tried to drag her down and replace her with Quince Larson. Don't you think that you've let her down? Each and every word that Finn Taylor spat out was as sharp as a dagger, piercing Joseph Larson's heart. It was then that the latter felt utter despair. I can die today to save you all that trouble, but I have a request too. Can you promise me not to threaten each other with your lives after I'm gone? Now that he was nearing death, his words seemed kinder too. Joseph Larson could let everything go now. His only wish was for the Larson family to stay intact. Only if you apologize to Yvette. Finn Taylor knew just how much his wife had suffered over the past 3 years. Even if he were to kill Joseph Larson in the most brutal way possible, Finn Taylor still wouldn't be able to vent even 1/100th of his hatred toward this old man. He wanted the other to admit that he had done wrong. Apologize. The Larson family was a traditional family, one where elders would never apologize to the younger generations no matter what they did. In the past 3 years, Yvette Larson had tolerated everything. But now, Finn Taylor demanded an apology. Emotion surged in Joseph Larson's heart. Do I have to destroy my reputation and dignity before I die? Grandpa, I have no intention of forcing you to do anything. But as you said, the Larson family isn't very tight-knit anyway. Since you're unwilling to admit to your mistake, all I can say is that I'll have nothing to do with the rest of the family if someone tries to come against us in the future. While Finn Taylor claimed that he wasn't forcing Joseph Larson into making a decision, every word seemed to be contradicting him. 3 years. Finn Taylor had held it in for 3 whole years. Now that he had finally decided to bite back, he was going to go all out. This would definitely backfire on him if he were to leave a path out for the other. In an instant, all eyes shot toward Joseph Larson. Will he apologize? The eyes of everyone from the Larson family landed on Joseph Larson. He eventually turned to Yvette Larson, bent down, and fell to his knees, nearly collapsed onto the ground. Yvette, I was wrong. I was really wrong. The decades-long feuds of the Larson family dissipated with this simple sentence. Finn Taylor sneered, everything is going to end here. He patted Joseph Larson on the back and roared out, the Larson family head Joseph Larson is dead. Everyone of the Larson family, kneel to send the old master off. As soon as Finn Taylor finished his sentence, Joseph Larson gradually crumbled. Of course, the former didn't allow him to crumple onto the ground and held him carefully. Yvette Larson felt a surge of emotions in her heart. With Grandpa's death, everything is finally over. She was the first to kneel. Please let your unfilial granddaughter pay her respects. Following that, Frances Larson dragged Linda James onto her knees as well. Please let your unfilial son pay his respects. Frederick Larson and Franklin Larson shared a glance, understanding that they had just lost all power in the Larson family with their father's death. They then fell on their knees as well. Following this, Quinn Larson kneeled down, dragging his mother down as well. Hilary Stone had been reluctant to do so, yet she had no other choice with her son tugging on her. Finn Taylor looked up and winked at his wife. With tacit understanding between them, Yvette Larson burst out into tears. Grandpa, I was too unfilial. I haven't done anything for you yet. How could you leave so soon? Grandpa, I'm so afraid now that you've abandoned me and left. Grandpa, please rest assured that I'll organize an extravagant funeral for your last journey. Yvette Larson's performance was so convincing that it seemed as though she was an exceptionally filial granddaughter who could move the heavens. Finn Taylor shouted, my condolences, miss. The Larson family still needs you to lead the family. He then glanced at his father-in-law. Understanding what the other meant, Frances Larson also shouted, my condolences. Please don't take it upon yourself as the family head. Of course, Frederick Larson and Franklin Larson knew exactly why Finn Taylor was putting on such a show. Yet, they couldn't choose not to participate in it. With no other choice, they shouted in unison, our condolences, Ms. Larson. Finn Taylor turned to Quinn Larson. The latter understood that all hope was lost now. No matter how ambitious he was, there was no way of salvaging the situation. Sister, Grandpa has passed on. Please take care of yourself. You're the new family head, and we need you to lead us in the future. After everyone spoke up, Yvette Larson finally stood up. Thank you for everyone's concern. I may be young, but I won't let Grandpa down since he's made me the family head. From today onward, please hand over all of your shares in the Larson Corporation. As the family head, I will redistribute the shares according to each family's contributions. Do you have any objections? Frederick Larson and Franklin Larson smiled bitterly. Yvette Larson is out to kill us, yet we brought this upon ourselves. If we were made the family head this time, would we have let Yvette Larson's family off? The answer is obvious, of course not. This was why there was nothing they could say about the way Yvette Larson's family was treating them. Finn Taylor had no intention of interfering in Joseph Larson's funeral. After all, he had already achieved his aims. He nodded at his wife. I'll hand this over to you. I'm going to deal with that bast. Of course, the bast Finn Taylor was talking about was none other than Quince Larson. The latter had created tons of trouble over the years and had humiliated Finn Taylor countless times in the past 3 years. He was the one who had spread the rumor of Finn Taylor being a piece of trash and not having touched Yvette Larson. Today, Finn Taylor was going to get his revenge for every single insult he'd been subjected to. In the abandoned warehouse where Quince Larson had held his cousin captive, Finn Taylor had instructed Hunter Sullivan to take Quince Larson here. Quince Larson had crossed Finn Taylor's limit. It was this event that led to everything that had just taken place today. Since that was the case, Finn Taylor was going to end everything here too. Standing in front of his cousin-in-law, Quince Larson was filled with reluctance and terror. He wanted to kneel down to the other and beg for mercy, yet he knew that kneeling would do nothing. Since that was the case, it would be better to die with dignity. However, the fear of death eventually drove Quince Larson to cast aside all care for his dignity. He fell onto his knees with no hesitation. Finn Taylor, I was wrong. Please let me off this time. Finn Taylor sneered. Quince Larson, you disgust me. You're nothing but a dog to me. Look at where we are now. Do you really think that I'm going to let you off? If you died while standing, I might still respect you. However, it looks like you're nothing more than a cowardly worm." With that, he threw a vicious kick at his wife's cousin. It landed on the latter's stomach, causing him to throw up whatever was in his stomach. Quince Larson groaned in pain, feeling as though he was about to die. He seemed to be able to see death knocking on his door. "Do I have any way out?" Finally, he thought of someone, that bald elder. If not for that grandpa's love, Quince Larson would have died a long time ago whenever Finn Taylor forced him into a corner. He had always said that he would have a way out because he had someone backing him. Nobody but him knew about this man. 3 years ago, a bald elder had approached him at Finn Taylor's wedding. That day, he had told Quince Larson to look for him if Finn Taylor ever drove him into a corner. As long as he was willing to remain a loyal dog to him, Quince Larson would live. At that time, Quince Larson had thought of it as a joke. Finn Taylor was nothing more than a useless matrilocal son-in-law. There was no way he'd be so threatened by him, yet here they were today. "I'm willing to be your slave and be loyal to you forever. Are you there? Please save me." Finn Taylor was about to viciously kick his cousin-in-law in the head. This would definitely end his life, but a figure appeared just then. A bald old man grabbed his foot and shoved him. It took Finn Taylor 10 whole seconds to steady himself, and he looked at the elder. "Gremlin, are you really going to interfere in this matter?" Gremlin wasn't one to be trifled with. One of the main reasons Finn Taylor's grandma Frida Cameron had been able to helm Peregrine Hall without much obstruction after Brian Taylor's death was due to Gremlin's help. He was vicious and fiercely loyal to Frida Cameron. What is he trying to do now by saving Quince Larson? Don't you think it's dishonoring for Master Peregrine to go against a mere dog? Gremlin sneered. Oh, is it not dishonoring for Gremlin from Peregrine Hall to save a dog then? If you want to hit a dog, you should get to know its owner first. There's no way you're going to kill this dog today with me here. In Finn Taylor and Gremlin's conversation, Quince Larson was no more than a mere dog. Quince Larson was naturally fuming. "I'm the eldest grandson of the Larson family and a renowned figure in San Francisco. How dare you people address me in this way?" Yet, he dared not express the rage in his heart. Gremlin is the only one who can save me now. Being a dog is better than being dead. Gremlin threw a kick at Finn Taylor's abdomen. While the latter dodged, his speed was no match for Gremlin. In the end, Finn Taylor fell onto the ground. "Bast, you killed Frida Cameron. Let's see if you'll survive today." With that, Gremlin landed a few more vicious kicks on Finn Taylor. But right then, the former felt a needle stabbing into his foot. All he felt was numbness, so much so that he nearly collapsed. An elder walked in with no hurry at all. "Gremlin, don't you think it's inappropriate for you to be attacking your junior?" The one who just entered was none other than Finn Taylor's master, an envoy of Peregrine Hall, Maximus Bruegel. Gremlin felt terribly disappointed to see the latter, and he sighed. This meant that he wouldn't be able to kill Finn Taylor today. There was no way he'd be able to do anything to the other with Maximus Bruegel here. Nobody within Peregrine Hall had ever heard of Maximus Bruegel killing anyone, yet there were rumors of him having legendary skills. Of course, given the personalities of those from Peregrine Hall, many had tried to test Maximus Bruegel. The result was what had just happened to Gremlin. He didn't even have the opportunity to get anywhere close to Maximus Bruegel before they were stabbed by a needle and became immobilized. It would be terribly simple for Maximus Bruegel to kill them if he wanted to do so. Naturally, nobody would listen to him if he didn't have any abilities of his own. "Maximus Bruegel, this has nothing to do with you. I'm getting revenge for Frida Cameron. Are you going to cut in?" Maximus Bruegel laughed. "Gremlin, this naturally has something to do with me. You're trying to kill my disciple. In that case, shall I find a few men to play with you?" Maximus Bruegel coughed, and a man walked in with a knife in his hand. Sprite. The one who had arrived was Sprite of Peregrine Hall. His skills were on par with Gremlin, and neither was better than the other. "Good, I'll leave. Will that do? But I'll leave with this dog." Gremlin pointed at Quince Larson. It wasn't because Quince Larson was important to him. It was simply because he had come to save the other in the first place. If Quince Larson were to die, it would be downright humiliating for him. "All right, Finn, you should kick him too since he kicked you earlier." Finn Taylor's lips curled up, and his leg flew toward Gremlin's abdomen. Although Gremlin remained rooted to the spot, the kick left him groaning in pain. He was raging, yet he had no other choice but to leave with Quince Larson. "How long have you not gone for training? Your skills are deteriorating." Maximus Bruegel glanced at Finn Taylor with coldness in his eyes. Something was evidently wrong. Finn Taylor hadn't even managed to move the other from his spot. Master, I've never stopped training. It's just that. What? Maximus Bruegel's gaze only grew colder. He hated others finding excuses for themselves. Some time ago, a strange man appeared in San Francisco and hurt Hunter Sullivan. I went to meet that man and fought with him, getting injured in the process. Maximus Bruegel walked up to his disciple, reached out, and tried to take his pulse. His face then fell. You're lucky that he didn't injure your internal organs. You'll recover fully in less than a week with some medication. Finn Taylor thanked his master. I have a question for you, master. You don't have to ask me about it. I don't have the answer either. Maximus Bruegel knew what his disciple was going to ask, whether Brian Taylor was still alive. He didn't have the answer either. At that time, he had seen Brian Taylor severely injured to the point that few would be able to survive. Yet, it was also true that nobody had ever seen Brian Taylor's corpse. Besides, he had never shown up in recent years. As such, nobody had any answers to Finn Taylor's questions either. Master, do you really have no clue at all? No. Maximus Bruegel stood up and walked out. The only reason he was here was due to him realizing that Gremlin had come to San Francisco. He was worried about Finn Taylor. Since he had already taken care of the matter, there was no reason to stay for any longer. Gremlin left with Quince Larson. Do you know who he is? Gremlin asked a strange question all of a sudden. Who? Finn Taylor. He's just the useless matrilocal son-in-law of the Larson family, a piece of trash. Piece of trash, hee. Oh right, he's quite good at fighting. Fighting, is that all? It seems like you know nothing about him. He's the eldest son of Chicago's Taylor family and Master Peregrine of Peregrine Hall. He can get anything he wants at the snap of his fingers, yet you call him a piece of trash who's just good at fighting. Gremlin's words made Quince Larson's heart thump crazily, and he nearly collapsed out of shock. Fuck, is he serious? The eldest son of the most prominent family in the country, the Taylor family. Master Peregrine of Peregrine Hall. How could Finn Taylor have such a prestigious background? Are you afraid of him? Aye. If he had been posed this question in the past, the answer would be a firm no, yet, it was impossible for him not to feel fearful now that he had learned the truth. This was the eldest son of Chicago's Taylor family, Master Peregrine of Peregrine Hall they were talking about. You useless fool, what's there to fear? He's just the matrilocal son-in-law of the Larson family, a piece of trash. Remember the terms of me saving you today. You have to remain loyal to one person up until the day you die. Your owner is Donovan Taylor. Quince Larson was slightly stunned. Donovan Taylor, who's that? Seemingly realizing the confusion on Quince Larson's expression, Gremlin went on with an explanation. Donovan Taylor is Finn Taylor's twin brother, but they're as different as day and night. Finn Taylor is a jinx who's here to ruin the Taylor family, while Donovan Taylor is different. He's a saint who will bring the family to glory. Your owner has run into some trouble, so he couldn't show up today. I now need your help to defeat Finn Taylor on his behalf. I'll give you some money. Tell me, how much do you need? Quince Larson hadn't really understood what Gremlin said earlier, but he surely understood the last part of the latter's speech. He's giving me money. That's great. I need $1 billion. This was what he had requested for Yvette Larson's ransom. Since the Taylor family is so rich, $1 billion probably doesn't mean much to them. Yet, he couldn't help but feel frantic after voicing out his thoughts. $1 billion, you fool, I'll give you $10 billion. Gremlin's words stupefied Quince Larson. $10 billion, I've never even seen so much money in my life. I don't expect you to defeat Finn Taylor even after giving you $10 billion, but it shouldn't be hard for you to slow him down with this money. Don't worry, I'll be like a dog and take a huge bite out of him. With that, Quince Larson even barked like a dog. Woof, woof, woof. The moment Finn Taylor walked out of that abandoned warehouse, he received a phone call from Chloe Yates. She informed him that she had found a worker from Mars, who had agreed to lock 2 people up in Mars. Finn Taylor was overwhelmed with emotions as he heard so, because he had his suspicions of his grandpa being in Mars. That was why he was sending Phoenix and Triton to Mars to retrieve his grandpa. How could Finn Taylor not get excited after receiving news about Mars? Alright, I'll go to San Diego right away. The Larson family would be busy organizing Joseph Larson's funeral for the next few days. Since Finn Taylor wasn't going to care about it, he would naturally be free. As such, he headed to Los Angeles with Patrick Taylor and Felix Taylor to look for Chloe Yates. Can you bring me to meet that worker from Mars? No, he wants me to bring those 2 people to a landfill outside Los Angeles. They'll take them from there. Finn Taylor couldn't help but feel disappointed. He had thought that he would be able to meet that worker from Mars at the very least. Then, he would have some news regarding his grandpa. However, it seemed like things wouldn't be going that smoothly. Don't worry, Master Peregrine. Leave this to us. Grandpa saved our lives, so we'll do our best to save him once we get to Mars. Finn Taylor had no doubts about the duo's loyalty. He knew that the duo would even risk their lives to save his grandpa. You must be careful. I'll remain outside and try my best to save all of you. Finn Taylor wasn't saying this for the sake of doing so, was a promise to them. Finn Taylor was ready to risk his own life for them too. Grandpa was important to all three of them. Without him, they would have died a long time ago. Based on their agreement, Chloe Yates took Patrick Taylor and Felix Taylor to the landfill. Before that, she had asked Finn Taylor if they should place tracking or listening devices on the pair. However, Finn Taylor rejected that suggestion at once. Mars is way too mysterious. There has to be a good reason why nobody has even found out about the place over the years. We'd definitely be caught if we tried to use such underhanded methods. Then, all our plans of saving my grandpa would go to waste if we were to alert the enemy prematurely. All we can do is place our hopes on Felix Taylor and Patrick Taylor and hope they'll be able to adapt swiftly. After completing her mission of sending the pair to the landfill, Chloe Yates left. This was what they had agreed on. The moment she returned, Finn Taylor asked, "Do you think their lives will be in danger?" "What do you mean? Since we haven't been able to find Mars, do you think it's possible that all those people we think are at Mars are already dead?" Chloe Yates shook her head. "That's impossible. We couldn't install listening or tracking devices, but we placed detectors in their hearts. We'll know if they're still alive. Since we could send people in, I'm sure others can do the same. If those people are dead, Mars would have been exposed a long time ago." "That makes sense." Chloe Yates then asked, "Do you want me to keep an eye on that landfill?" "Absolutely not. We must follow their instructions. All we can do is hope that the two of them do their best." Chloe Yates smiled bitterly, shaking her head helplessly. "You grandpa must be important to you. He was the only one who treated me well." Chloe Yates didn't pursue the matter any further. She knew that Finn Taylor didn't want to touch on the topic. "I have something to attend to in San Francisco. I'm leaving." "Are you leaving so soon?" "Yes. Joseph Larson is dead, so I need to go back in case the Larson family does something to Yvette." Badump. Chloe Yates felt her heart leap when she heard that. Is it because of the sudden news of Joseph Larson's death, or is it because Finn Taylor has only Yvette Larson in his heart? She shook her head, warning herself to know her limits. "I'll never match up to Finn Taylor. I'll have to take my love for him to the grave. He must never know of anything." Finn Taylor didn't stay any longer and simply left. Just as he had expected, something had indeed happened in the Larson family. Of course, it wasn't because the Larson family dared to kick up a fuss. After witnessing what Finn Taylor was capable of, there was no way they'd dare to do anything. This time, it was the various families of San Francisco that were stirring up trouble for the Larson family, the old men from the Chess Association. They had gone to the old master's funeral on purpose, demanding that they be allowed to cease all collaborations with the Larson family. They even declared that anyone who sided with the Larson family was their enemy. This shocked the entire San Francisco. What kind of grudge do they have between them? Why do they have to go so far? The Larson family cared most about their reputation and appearance, and this meant that the old master's funeral had to be extravagant beyond measure. And inviting all the renowned figures in San Francisco was the way to prove to others just how powerful the family was. "Yvette Larson, we'll be frank with you. It's your husband Finn Taylor who offended us. You have two paths to choose from. Either you call your husband over to kneel before us, or we terminate our collaborations with the Larson family. Let's see how long your family will be able to survive without us in San Francisco." The Larson family was no more than a second-tier family in San Francisco. Given that both Joseph Larson and Quince Larson were already dead and that the Sullivan family had terminated their collaboration, the Larson Corporation was already on the verge of collapsing. If these families were to end their collaborations as well, the Larson family might very well break apart. "Yvette, you're the new family head. We're counting on you, so you can't lead us into a rut just after succeeding the position." The Larson family hated that Yvette Larson had become the new family head, yet they had no other choice. Hence, it was only natural for them to try to stir up trouble for Yvette Larson now that they had the chance to do so. "That's right, Yvetteino, Ms. Larson. Since you're the family head now, this can't mean much to you. You'll definitely be able to resolve it. Ms. Larson, please let us know how long you'll take to resolve this." Yvette Larson had never expected this to happen. She had only just been appointed as the new family head and hadn't even settled her grandpa's funeral before encountering such trouble. To be honest, she knew exactly what the Larson family meant. If she had the ability to resolve the matter, she had better do so. Otherwise, she had better take the initiative to step down from the position of family head. And now, there were only two paths open to her. Firstly, to hand Finn Taylor over and let him apologize to them. Yvette Larson would naturally never agree to that, even if her husband did. Secondly, she could subdue all those prominent figures in front of her by using the Larson family's power. Yvette Larson couldn't help but let out a bitter smile inwardly. There's no way out of this. Finn has done so much for me, so I can't just abandon him now. Yvette Larson stood forward and glanced at the people in front of her. Kevin Jones, Samuel Stone, Troy Kleina, and all of you. Listen to me declaring war against all of your families in the name of the Larson family today. How dare you threaten me? I'll take on your challenge. As long as your family remains, the Larson family will regard you as our enemies. Anyone who helps you will be our enemy as well. They'll die horrible deaths too. The Larson family elders had wanted Yvette Larson to resolve the trouble. Who would have thought that she hadn't managed to do so and even declared war against so many other families? They were in deep trouble now. Yvette Larson, you. Yvette Larson, how dare you? Are you really going to make enemies with all of us? Yvette Larson, you're just a young girl who's still wet behind the ears. Even your grandpa wouldn't have dared to say such things to us while he was alive. Who are you to declare war against us? Kevin Jones and the rest of the men were here to threaten Yvette Larson. What they wanted to see was the young lady admitting defeat. Who would have expected the latter to declare war against them instead? Is she really not afraid that we'll trample on her family? Then, the Larson family will be nothing but history in San Francisco. If that's the case, Yvette Larson will be a criminal in the Larson family's books. How will she face her ancestors when she dies then? The old men were all fuming, yet they had no other choice but to leave. Of course, Yvette Larson still had the rest of her family on her back. They had strong opinions toward Yvette Larson being the family head previously. Now, Yvette Larson had made such a decision without getting their approval. She didn't even have a discussion with them. What if we fail? Does she know what will happen? What do you mean by this, Yvette Larson? How could you make the decision to go against all these families without any discussion with us? Are you not afraid of killing us? That's right, Grandpa handed you the position to lead us and bring the Larson family to new heights, not destroy the family. You're a criminal, the greatest criminal the Larson family has seen. The words that left the Larson family's mouths were as nasty as they could get. The race had just begun. Yvette Larson hadn't even lost, yet they had already painted her as a criminal. Look at all of you. Do you really think of yourselves as elders? If you guys were so capable, why was the Larson Corporation forced to close down when it was in your hands? You're a bunch of useless fools. How dare you act like this now? Just as the Larson family was reproaching Yvette Larson, Finn Taylor returned. His words enraged the entire family, yet there was nothing they could do. He was right. What could they possibly say to refute the truth? Finn Taylor, you're just a matrilocal son-in-law of our family. We're the elders here, so you're in no place to teach us a lesson. Finally, someone could no longer take it and lashed out at him. Hee, who are you? How dare you act like an elder here? Don't you remember embezzling $30,000 in that project 3 years ago and another $60,000 in that project last year? Do you really need me to go into more detail? I have evidence against you, and you. It doesn't mean that I've forgiven you just because I'm not saying anything. If you guys know what's good for you and do as Yvette says, I'll naturally let things go. But if you don't know your place and have any foolish thoughts of dragging Yvette down, you can wait to go to hell. Finn Taylor's earlier words held no weight, but he had caught their attention this time. Go to hell. We're still young and have a whole life ahead of us. Naturally, none of them wanted to die. As such, they all shut up. Finn Taylor looked at the people in front of him, who wisely chose to remain silent. He then turned to his wife. Do what you want. I'll pull heaven down for you if you want. Everyone present stared at Finn Taylor as though he was a joke, but Yvette Larson knew that he wasn't bragging. Finn Taylor was completely capable of doing so. Finn Taylor, what right do you have to be speaking here? You're just a matrilocal son-in-law of the Larson family, a piece of trash. Do you really think you managed to win the competition because of your own skills? It's only because of our grace and our teachings that you managed to win. Just think about what you've done over the past 3 years. Nothing. I'm going to make myself clear today. I'm going to strip your family of all projects in 3 days' time. If you're willing to submit to me, kneel for 2 whole hours at the peak of Pacific Heights. I'll let the Larson family off then. Otherwise, I'm going to make sure that the entire Larson family dies a horrible death. Kevin Jones had made himself clear he wasn't going to back down until he killed off the entire Larson family. Yvette Larson, you're impressive. You've just humiliated the family at Grandpa's funeral. Do you think you're still worthy of being the family head? There were 2 people standing at the gate of the Larson family's residence. Nobody was surprised to see one of them, Eleanor Larson. Although she hadn't been around, she had rushed back the moment her father informed her that her grandpa had passed on. Yet, almost everyone was stunned to see the other. It was Quince Larson. Isn't he dead? This was the first thought that came to everyone's mind. Did Finn Taylor choose to let him off? That can't be. That's impossible. Quince, you're still alive. Franklin Larson stood up and rushed forward. Quince Larson was his son. He had thought that Finn Taylor had killed his son, and that was why he'd concealed a dagger under his clothes today. He had thought it Throfe was going to find a way to end Finn Taylor's life today. Don't worry, Dad, not only did I not die, but I even met a benefactor. He saved me and even gave me $10 billion to rebuild the Larson family. Shock. Complete shock. Who would have thought that Quince Larson would have such good luck? Not only had he not been killed, but he had even gotten such a windfall. What happened? Yvette Larson, who was standing next to her husband, felt that something was amiss. Given my understanding of him, he'd never do so. He'd never let an enemy off just like that. Someone powerful gifted my younger brother a dog to bite me. Yvette Larson knew that the dog he was speaking of was Quince Larson. And he agreed to it. The word, dog, was like a stab to Quince Larson's heart. He'd painted a glorious image of himself in front of everyone. After all, he had $10 billion in his bank account now. Yet, he knew full well that he was no more than a dog to that elder, who had even told him that he had an owner, Donovan Taylor. That was utter humiliation. Finn Taylor, don't try to be smart with your words. I'm sure you must be feeling unwell now. Yvette Larson had noticed that her spouse would frown from time to time and press on his abdomen as well. She had been wondering what was going on, and it seemed like her husband had gotten injured. Are you all right? Gremlin was the second strongest in the whole of Peregrine Hall, the first being Maximus Bruegel. It would be a lie if Finn Taylor said that he was fine after enduring a kick from him, but it wouldn't be so easy to crush him just like that. He just needed some time to recuperate. Ms. Larson, Grandpa handed the position of family head to you, so I won't try to snatch it from you. But now that the family is in such grave danger, I'm obliged to help the family out of this rut as the Larson family's eldest grandson. I've decided to rebuild the Larson family. Anyone who doesn't believe in Yvette Larson and wants to follow me is welcome. Quince Larson's words were obviously targeted at Yvette Larson. Do you think you're so good just because you became the family head on the account that I hurt Grandpa? So what? Do you think I'm going to be struck down so easily? I'm going to establish a new Larson family today and let you see that you're nothing to the Larson family. You were nothing in the past, now, and in the future. Quince, Grandpa trusted you the most. We believe in you. Yes, Quince, you're our greatest hope. Quince's future child will be a Larson. Who knows what surname Yvette Larson's child will have? Perhaps the child will be a Taylor or even have another surname. Their words were getting more vicious by the minute, and it didn't even matter to them that Quince Larson had killed the old master. On account of the $10 billion, they had all chosen to stand on Quince Larson's side. Just like that, 90% of the Larson family had left. The remaining 10% were either too old to bother or bore grudges with Quince Larson and wouldn't benefit from siding with him. Given such circumstances, it didn't mean much even if Yvette Larson was the so-called family head anymore. The only evidence that they had against Quince Larson was their grandpa's own words. But now that he was dead, there was no longer the need to bring that up anymore. How do you feel, Yvette Larson? Everyone has betrayed you. Yvette Larson remained silent. Since they have chosen to leave me, there's no need to try to keep them. All I need to do is bring the Larson family to greater heights and make them regret this decision. Quince Larson seemed disappointed by her lack of response. He glanced at the Larson Corporation employees who had come to attend his grandfather's funeral. Joseph Larson had been the chairman of the company, so it was only natural for the employees to attend his funeral. The Larson Corporation is in grave danger now that someone has provoked important men. This boat could capsize at any time, and you guys are the paddlers on this boat. Will you choose to die with Yvette Larson or come aboard my ship? What's your choice? Quince Larson's words caused a flurry of activity amongst the employees. To tell the truth, not a single one of them thought well of Yvette Larson. The Larson Corporation had already been on the verge of collapsing and going bankrupt because of the Sullivan family terminating their contract. Now, they were even being targeted by so many other prominent families in the city. It would be hard for them to overcome this, so it was an obvious choice for them. Besides, the one offering them a job was no stranger to them. They turned to Yvette Larson, not knowing what to say. Yvette Larson had naturally seen all of their expressions, and she was fuming inwardly. I've treated all of them so well. Don't they feel ashamed for doing this now? But as an adult, Yvette Larson understood them too. In reality, there was no right or wrong, only benefits. As such, she wasn't going to stop them. You are free to make your own choice, leave if you want to. I won't say a thing, but I'm going to make myself clear. If it doesn't work out there, don't even think of coming back to me. Nobody had expected Yvette Larson to agree to them leaving. An employee stood forward. Ms. Larson, I'm sorry, we're only workers, and we need to feed our family. I'll always remember your kindness. I'll forego my last month of salary. Please don't hold it against me, Ms. Larson. With that, he walked toward Quince Larson. Another then followed. And another. Very quickly, 90 out of the 95 Larson Corporation employees had left. The 5 remaining employees had always been on Yvette Larson's side, so there was no way they'd survive in Quince Larson's company. Even if they were to join him, they'd surely be blacklisted. Looking at the empty space next to her, Yvette Larson smiled bitterly. Such is reality. Yvette Larson, oh Yvette Larson. It seems like I won't have to do much this time. You're done for. I'll be waiting for your husband to beg me for mercy on his knees in 3 days' time. Kevin Jones burst out into laughter. He had never expected Quince Larson's appearance to be of such great help to him this time, yet he couldn't help but respect Yvette Larson for her resolution. Of course, Quince Larson was nothing more than scum to him. He looked down on the latter. Now that his family was facing a crisis, he wasn't even trying to help the family. Instead, he tried to split the family apart. There was no way he'd work with someone like that. After all, a collaboration with someone like this would definitely backfire. As the old men left, the storm slowly dissipated. Quince Larson stood indifferently before his grandpa before leaving as well. Just like that, Joseph Larson's funeral was over. Quince Larson, Eleanor Larson, and the rest of the Larson family were gathered at Quince Larson's house. Quince, do you really have 10 billion? Although they had chosen to follow him, they couldn't help but be filled with doubt as to whether he truly had that sum of money. As such, they couldn't wait to clarify their doubts. Quince Larson had already expected them to be suspicious of him. The only way to quell all suspicions was by having solid evidence that meant showing them exactly how much he had in his bank account. Everyone stared intently at the string of numbers 10 million, 100 million, 1 billion, 10 billion. Shock, complete shock. This caused everyone's doubts to dissipate, yet they were dumbfounded. That's $10 billion we're talking about. This is much more than the Larson family ever had. With this, crushing Yvette Larson will be as easy as snapping our fingers. It's indeed an intelligent choice to follow Quince Larson. Quince, you've never disappointed us. That's right, I knew Quince could do it. When Grandpa asked me who was most suitable to be the next family head, you were the first one to come to mind, Quince. Only you will be able to bring us to greater heights. That's right, look at Yvette Larson, she married a matrilocal son-in-law and humiliated our family. Her resignation landed our family in this state, and it's because of her that so many families are against us now. Her family is the jinx of the Larson family. I suggest that we don't allow her to place ashes with the rest of the Larson family when she dies. Someone was stirring up trouble yet again. Yes, I agree. Franklin, write a petition. We'll sign it. One by one, they all started to target Yvette Larson. This naturally pleased Quince Larson. The more they went against Yvette Larson, the more elated he became. The fight over the position of family head had never ended. In fact, it had just begun. Now that I have $10 billion, I'll get back everything that should have been mine to begin with. This petition will be a declaration of war against my cousin. As they returned to number 1 Pacific Heights, Linda James was in a frenzy. Yvette, are you sure you can handle so many families going against the Larson family? Those people from the Larson family are so shameless. They know exactly what Quince Larson is like, yet they chose to join him. Yvette, what did Finn say? Why didn't he kill Quince Larson? Linda James seemed to have strong opinions toward how Quince Larson was still alive. Mom, Finn must have his reasons. Although Linda James didn't understand the situation, Yvette Larson did. Finn Taylor was injured. Otherwise, Quince Larson would have died a long time ago. What reasons could he possibly have? Isn't he brilliant? Quince Larson has been bullying us for years. Couldn't he do anything to get at him for us? Linda James was an elder to Quince Larson, yet the latter had never been polite toward her. This naturally irked Linda James, who cared most about appearances. Now, Finn Taylor had wasted such a good opportunity. It was only obvious that she would be annoyed. Yvette Larson didn't try to explain anything to her mom and instead headed back to her room to check on her husband. Once his daughter left, Frances Larson spoke up. Don't interfere in this. Don't you know how powerful Finn Taylor is? He obviously has his own reasons for doing so don't put him on the spot for the sake of your own dignity. Frances Larson was a man of few words, but his words were always meaningful. As for Linda James, she wasn't one who would be convinced by words alone. Why not? I'm his mom, so can't I lecture him? But you have to watch your words. Don't put Yvette on the spot just because you want to lecture Finn. But you saw what happened today too. Finn Taylor made all of the Larson family members betray us at the funeral. Don't you think that was humiliating? To put it bluntly, all Linda James cared about was that she had been embarrassed. I'm not going to waste my breath on you. You're too unreasonable. Unreasonable? Did you call me unreasonable? Do you think I'm doing this for myself? I'm doing this for our family. Frances Larson couldn't be bothered to rebuke her. I expected too much from my wife. Wait till next part.